So, welcome to the show. We'll be playing Cryptworld / Chill. I'll be your games master. I'm Bryan F. Irving from DH9 Radio and from Gethsemane Games. The cast of characters will be played by the rabble you've already heard before we officially started. So I will begin with Jenny. Introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Jenny. I play Alexis Strange, who is a private investigator.
I wouldn't care. I got wrong for calling her Strange last year. She messaged us afterwards and went, I'm sure it's Strang. Okay, Chris, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Chris. I play Aiden Oz, a zoologist of endangered and exotic animals.
And Patrick?
Hello, I'm Patrick. I'm playing James Montgomery Rossiter, and I'm a paranormal investigator.
And next up is Ben.
Hello, I'm Ben. I am playing Sir Oswald Remington, and I am a professor at the University of Oxford, I think.
I think.
Yes.
Next we have...
He's so absent-minded, he even...
Yes, Professor, sit down.
Next we have Marie McGowan Irving.
Hello, I'm Marie, and I'm playing Colette McClafferty, which is the real name of the journalist known as Alexa Moran.
And finally we have Marc Saveall.
Hi, my name is Marc, and I'm playing Rabman, you know.
You're not playing Rab.
He's off on one.
Shit. Right, apparently I'm not allowed to play Rab, so I will instead be playing Rupert Giles.
Yes, you will, because
Also
we're playing
known as
Chill,
Ripper.
and Rab is from a different game entirely, but we will be playing some more of that fairly shortly. But we'll come on to that another time. So, collectively, we are some of the Gethsemane gamers, and we will be playing today the classic Chill adventure Death on Tour. Although I have to say it has been quite heavily modified for our purposes. For a start, we've moved the adventure from where it was originally set in the USA over to the UK, since we are all based here, as are the characters. This particular mission takes place 6 months after last year's mission to Loch Ness. And in this mission we will see the players in Newcastle upon Tyne initially. So some of you should be familiar with that, certainly some of the players. The maps we'll be using today are by myself and Gethsemane Games. The music, I would like to thank Eric from James Ray's Gang War for allowing us to use their entire back catalogue.
Alright,
so James
nice.
Ray's Gang War will provide some of the music for this evening's show. The rest, of course, will come from Tabletop Audio. So, without further ado, let us begin our adventures. The year is 1986, September 10th, in point of fact. Around about 6 months after the Highland Terror mission, where a very similar team of agents to this was sent to Loch Ness to investigate tales of the Loch Ness Monster. Today, this team has one additional member to the team that was on the Loch Ness mission, and that would be Rupert Giles, who is a long-serving Save Envoy but wasn't available for that particular mission. So, Jenny, your character has done several missions with Rupert in the past, dating right the way back from the Village of Twilight mission in 1984. So, once again, you have all been contacted by the Eternal Society, of which you are all active members, investigative envoys, who fight the dark forces of the unknown, the supernatural entities that wish to do us all harm. Usually when you get one of these letters, it is to send you on another mission against the forces of the unknown, and this instance is absolutely no different. With the message, you've also found a hotel reservation slip and one each ticket to a gig in Newcastle upon Tyne. Music gig. The letter reads, Dear Envoy, please find enclosed a ticket to the upcoming Van Helsing concert at the Mayfair Ballrooms, Newcastle upon Tyne, for the 10th of September. You'll also find check-in details for a hotel in Newcastle upon Tyne. Save has reason to suspect that a creature of the unknown, possibly a vampire, is using the band's concert as a hunting ground. Save agents in the USA became suspicious after hearing of a curious death in the crowd at the band's most recent American gig in the city of Pittsburgh.
Okay.
A member of the audience collapsed and died during the performance. The victim, one Emily Anderson, was found to have been exsanguinated. Local law enforcement are perplexed as the victim collapsed during the live show, with over 1,000 eyewitnesses, none of whom reported seeing anything untoward. One moment all seemed well, the next moment other gig goers recall seeing her collapse to the ground and die. The band continued playing for a few minutes until they became aware of the fatality in the crowd, at which time they cut the gig short and waited for the police to arrive. The band were interviewed by officers of the Pittsburgh PD, but could provide no clarity on the events of that evening, having seen nothing. Of course, they were exonerated by the investigating officers, as over 1,000 people witnessed them performing live on stage during the death of the victim, and concluded they could not possibly have been involved. However, during the SAFE investigation, North American agents discovered that there has been a similar death at or near 4 other Van Helsing concerts that they could find. Unfortunately, the band left the USA for their British and European tour before envoys from the American officers could intercept them. Coincidentally, a former member of the band, Paul Whiteout, now lives in Washington County, Durham, not far from Newcastle upon Tyne. Whiteout left the band citing musical differences a couple of years ago and moved to the United Kingdom, or rather moved back to the United Kingdom, as he was born here. It is possible that you might be able to speak to him and learn more. We have forwarded his address to fellow envoy Colette McClafferty, who, you may be aware, is a journalist and therefore may be able to leverage her position to arrange an interview with Mr. Whitehouse. Thank you. and good
Bryan,
luck.
can I just stop you?
Yeah.
Several times you call Mr. Whiteout and then you change his name to Mr. Whitehouse. So we'll need to be specific when we're looking for him.
Okay. Yes. There is a good reason for that. His actual name is Whitehouse. His stage name was Whiteout.
Right.
Right.
So, thank you and good luck. Save Central Office, Dublin.
Okay.
And that message will now be in your... you'll be able to read that at any time. It will be in your journals.
Okay.
Alexis lives in Glasgow, doesn't she?
Yes.
Right. I'm going to phone Alexis and I'm going to say, what? We have to go to Newcastle?
Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, Alexis lives in Glasgow. I'm not... No, I don't think so. Don't you live in County Durham?
I honestly don't remember.
Anyway,
I seem to
gonna
remember
phone-
from the
I'm-
haunting of Alexis Strange adventure
I'm
that you
going
live in
to
County
phone her
Durham, but could be wrong.
anyway, and I'm going to say, I can't believe they want me to go to England.
It's like, well, it's... I mean... I know it's not ideal, but...
I don't even want to talk about the last time I had to go to Newcastle. Honestly, I just don't want to. Right, okay, I'm going to try and find this White House guy.
All right.
If I can't find him through regular means, we might need to have you use your private investigator skills.
Yeah, I can get on it. Let me know if you have any luck
Mhm.
with that. If you don't, then I'll start having a look. I'll
It'd
probably...
be easier if he was still in the band because I could get the press office onto it.
Yeah.
But if he's not in the band, then it's going to be a case of phoning him up or doorstepping him. But we'll see what we can do.
Well, I'll start having a look in his background and things like that, see what I can find out, and then maybe we can.
I'll pull old newspaper cuttings, see what it says about Van Helsing. If they've
Okay.
been to the UK before, I'll see what we can find round about it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll
Okay.
have to sort meeting up with everybody as well.
You
So
will. Yeah. So, Chris, you were about to speak there. Can I hear from you now?
I would like to find out where these other tours were when they were in the USA.
Okay. Yeah. So, can I have Chris? You will need an investigation roll if you have it, or a journalism roll if you haven't. Marie, your character will need a journalism roll, and Alexis Strange will need a investigation roll.
What happens if you don't have either?
If you don't have either, you can give me just a perception test instead, but it will be on a slightly harder ability check column. So I'll worry about that. You don't need to. Right. So just to remind you all, in case you've forgotten or in case you weren't here during the snagging session yesterday, when you roll the inline abilities, if there's a negative number comes up, you have failed. If there's a positive number comes up, that is how much you have passed by. That's not the number you rolled, but the amount you passed by. So I'm going to start in the order they've come through to me. So that'll be Alexa, Colette, and Aiden.
Yeah.
So beginning with, actually, I might start in reverse order because you two, I've already spoken to you two, and Chris hasn't had a great deal of input yet. So I'm going to start in reverse order so we can start with Chris.
Can I get in on the investigation as well?
You can. What are you looking into?
As everybody else is sort of targeting the guy himself, I might try and contact like the record label.
Yes.
Whoever's like publishing them.
Oh, okay, go for it. Okay, so
I've got something I want to do as well.
okay, go ahead. Tell me what it is.
I'm going to basically hit a couple of bars and find out what the word on the street is from the band fans.
Excellent. Use an investigation test for that, or a perception if you don't have it. Patrick, you failed, so you're not able to find out who the record label are.
Oh no!
Marc,
how is that possible?
you've also found it, failed it. So you've been circulating through the bars and whatnot, and unfortunately, you've been speaking to the wrong kind of people because it's a heavy metal band, and that's not the kind of people you've.
All those terrible vodkas were a bad idea.
Absolutely, they were.
Yeah.
So, Chris, refresh my memory. What exactly it was you were looking into?
It's either the location of the last gigs or something that would give me more information is the investigating officer in Pittsburgh.
Right, you are. Okay. So, with a... and you used a... let me just find you again. Aiden, you used a perception test, so it's against column. Okay. So, Chris, you found the name of the investigating officer in Pittsburgh. It is... I don't want to use Officer Dibble. We used that last year.
O'Hara.
Officer O'Hara, it is indeed. So, Sergeant O'Hara at the Pittsburgh Police Department, whichever precinct, you get the precinct number as well. You can, in addition to that, you also get a list of the American cities that the tour has been to. They've been to New Orleans, they've been to Pittsburgh, they've been to Chicago, they've been to... let me just have a quick look here. They've been to New York, and they've been to... They seem to have done quite a few northern cities as well. And fewer southern.
Could also look into if there'd been any like missing persons reports
Okay.
while the band's in town or shortly after.
Okay, so yes.
Am I correct in thinking that we're all together? The party's gathered, or are we still separate?
Well, that's up to the party. Are we starting with you separated, or are you all heading towards the travel lodge that you've all been booked into?
I think Colette would want to have some information before getting there, because
Yeah.
if we're only booked into the hotel for a short period of time and we've got that gig, she'll want the information so she can hit the ground running.
Yeah, I think we've probably, because we had a telephone call, we've probably like spoken to everybody else on the phone, and like we've all possibly started our own investigations now, and maybe we've arranged to meet up like within a day or two or something, and then we'll meet.
Was
up
anyone travelling
there.
from London?
Yep.
Yeah.
I will be.
Unless anybody wants to go
I'm
there
travelling
early.
from my house.
So,
Okay,
we
so
could travel
at the
together.
moment you're in communication via telephone, but you haven't actually come together yet. So we're doing the initial research with you still scattered. And then once you've done the initial research, we'll have you meet up at the travel lodge, because all Save have done, you notice, is they've booked 2 rooms. They've booked
right,
2
okay.
family rooms, one for the men, one for the women. That's it. And the travel lodge is down by the quayside, so they've no expense spent, essentially. Okay. So, at the moment, then you're still separated, so if you want to get in touch with the other envoys, you're going to have to ring them. Now, bear in mind, you will only have the number of an envoy you have personally met. Because Save don't automatically give out each other's numbers.
I think I've met all of them, haven't I?
Yes, you've met all of them, because you've been on several missions with Rupert, but you're the only member of this team who's met Rupert. So you're the only one that can contact him. Rupert, the only one of the team you can contact is Alexa. At the moment. Alexis, rather. At the moment.
Yeah.
Until you physically meet each other, then you can decide if you're...
Okay.
Just before we go any further, make sure that you've all made a note of your Indolo, where you wear it and what it's made of. I know I asked you before the thing, so it should be noted on your character sheets, but just in case I've missed it, spot it in there.
There is something. There is something that you asked me to remind you of.
Yeah, go ahead. Ben, go ahead.
Whatever you said. So you said that I would have automatically had one a week prior, and then when I want to, I can try and have another one?
Yes. So, Ben, I'll give you the dream before I do what Colette and Alexa have found out. So let me just bring up the dream. I'm going to show this to you. Because I don't think I've got the... I've not got the cracked code.
Are we all supposed to see this?
No, I mean you will all see it, because I've popped it up so it can be seen.
Right.
But what I'm going to say is just don't look at it yet until he tells you about the dream, which you will do when you meet up, because it's part of the investigation. So, Sir Oswald, this is the dream you had a week ago. You recognise it as a prescient dream, so you're convinced it must connect to this mission somehow.
Okay.
But beyond that, you don't know much more. So I'm going to read it out. All around you are stacks of coffins, stretching as far as the eye can see, stacked upon each other, so that you cannot see the walls of the warehouse in which you stand. You walk among them, reaching out a hand to brush the wooden sides of the coffins as you go. One thought crosses your mind, over and over again, until it's all you can think of. I must buy one. Of course, and what style were you looking for? A black-clad mortician inquires, as he suddenly materializes before you out of the darkness. Was he there all along? The silk-lined ones are nice, no chafing, you see. No, just a plain pine box is all I need, you hear yourself say, in a voice that is, at once, both your own and not your own. At these words, all but one of the coffins vanish into the darkness, leaving only one, a simple pine box. As you watch, the box creaks open, and within it you see a music magazine, its papers turning by themselves until you see a picture of a heavy rock band. You raise your hand to strike, a wooden stake now gripped tightly in your fist as you bring the clenched fist down upon the page, impaling the musicians. The casket closes instantly and begins to spin end over end, gaining speed until it becomes nothing but a blur. You wake, sweating, the bedclothes soaked, and you're breathing deeply and quickly.
Can I have another?
You can roll for another, yes.
Okay.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah. So you get one automatically, but you can make a roll to see if you can pick up another one.
Damn.
Okay, -7 as a fail, so you do have to pay that willpower cost, but
Okay.
it'll tell you on your character sheet how quickly you return.
May I add to this?
Yes, you can. Go ahead.
We were driving to the location and said, trying to wake him up and saying, "We're nearly here. Wake up."
Yeah, and it stops us.
Whether he wakes up, it's up to him.
I guess I'll wake up. I failed the dream, so yeah, I'll wake up.
Right, you are.
I'm
So
awake.
you awake slightly annoyed because you just had that sensation you were about to have another prescient dream. In fact, you had like maybe the first couple of seconds of the next prescient dream. So I am just going to read that out to you, but then I'm going to stop before it gets interesting. Because that's the kind of bastard I am. Because just as it gets interesting is just the point at which you are woken up by the driver. So, you can fly. You sail down the city streets at an incredible speed, passing cars and turning at intersections. But strangely, drivers and pedestrians don't seem to see you. You cross the sidewalk and turn to, and that's the point at which you wake up.
Oh, he
Bastard.
wakes up in a right mood.
Yeah, absolutely you do. So, it would be, I think, Marie, it's Colette next. Can you refresh my memory what you scored and what it was you were looking into?
Right, I passed by 21, and I should probably do a second roll. My first roll was, I was going to see if I could find out, like using phone books or whatever, find a telephone number for Paul Whitehouse.
Okay, so at 21, I just need a general thing for that. You need an M or better result. You got an MK result. So yes, you managed to find Paul Whitehouse's telephone number in the book. He's listed in a directory. The directories were still quite common in the UK at the time.
Yep. And the second thing I was going to do was I was going to pull any press clippings, because obviously I work for a newspaper.
Yeah.
They've got press, microfiche and everything going back years. Any press stuff I can find about the band, whether they've been here before, whether they're...
Yeah, okay, give me a second journalism test for that. I'm going to give you a bonus to it, but I'm not going to tell you quite what the bonus is. So just give me a roll as it stands, and I'll add the extra 20%.
There you go. Pass by 15.
You pass by 15, so that's 35. It'll be a pass by on column 3. That gives us a H result. So there are a few things you find out about this was the band you were looking into, wasn't it? So I'm just going to take the results that you didn't get up to off this handout. Well, I'm going to move them to the Games Master Only section of the handout, in point of fact. And then I'm going to give this to you. I'm going to have to do that, they're already in the Games Master Only section, so I'm going to have to do that in reverse and move the bits you did get into the player section of this handout. Just give me a second. Paste. That should be right. I'm just going to make absolutely sure that you don't have... You passed by 35, I said, in total, didn't I? So yeah, that's up to an H result. So save changes, and again, I will show this to everybody, but at the moment, until you meet up, it will only be Colette who's actually got access to it. Show the players. I will, however, read it out as well. So, Van Helsing are a popular rock band with 5 hit albums, 3 of which have gone gold or platinum. The band has 12 top 10 songs, 7 of which have hit number 1 in the United States. The band's current lineup consists of Eddie Lee Roth on vocals, Jackson Jammer on guitar, Eddie Van Helsing on bass, and Mickey Van Helsing on drums. Previous members include Paul Whiteout on guitar and Andrew Sorgan, who was reported missing after the last tour and has never been found.
Okay.
So, and next up we have Alexa. What did you pass, Alexis? What did you pass by, and what was it you were looking into?
Right, I passed by 62.
Passed by 62. Yes,
Oh,
that's the hockey puck on my desk is responding to your character's name.
Oh yeah, so I passed by 62.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to do some investigation into the background of Mr. Whitehouse, and if I have time, I will do a little bit more investigation into the background of the band members and see if there's anything, weird about their past or anything of interest.
Yeah, okay. So I seem to be missing that section from my master handout, so I'll have to find it manually like a peasant. Because it'll be listed as a scene, that's why. So, interview with Paul Whitehead. Okay, so what you found out from Paul Whitehead, he was born in County Durham in the United Kingdom, back when, Washington was still in County Durham before it was moved, before the political boundaries were moved and it became part of Tyne and Wear. So he's in his late 30s now. He's been a musician most of his life. He was actually considered quite a good guitarist. He went to America and he joined the band Van Helsing about 10 years ago, and he was their guitarist for quite some time till they added a second guitarist, Jackson Jammer, in order to fill out the sound a little bit, because as you know, a lot of heavy metal bands have got more than one guitar, and they wanted to fill out the sound a bit, so they brought Jackson Jammer in. The two men, rumour has it that the two men didn't get along, and that as a consequence, Paul Whiteout left the band, didn't manage to join another band that was particularly successful, so he came back to the UK.
Okay.
And that's about all you can find out about him. He kind of just seems to have disappeared from public view after that.
And he's not done any interviews or anything since.
He has never given an interview about why he left the band, despite the fact that initially he was pursued for interviews when he was still in the United States. The music press pursued him to find out why he left the band, but he never gave an interview.
And do I have time to look into the backgrounds of the other members and see? I don't know if I would, through doing that, if I would find out about this missing band member or not.
Okay. Give me a D10 roll, and that's going to tell me about how long you've spent finding out what you've found out so far.
10.
10. So you've spent 10 hours finding that out, which means you do have a little bit of time if you do want to try looking into one other thing, but you would only have time for one other thing.
I'll look into any... Have any of the other band members had interviews that have mentioned anything
Okay, there was
interesting?
once a famous interview with Jackson Jammer. It was recorded in 1984, round about the same time, coincidentally, that you were in Mexico for the Village of Twilight mission. During which Jackson came across as incredibly arrogant, self-obsessed, egomaniacal, slimy almost. Very smug,
Okay.
very pleased with himself. Oddly enough, every single copy of that video, of that interview, has disappeared.
Huh.
It was a radio interview initially, and every known copy, including the ones archived by the radio station, have inexplicably disappeared.
All right.
That's all you're going to have. Actually, give me another D10 roll, see how long it took you to find that out.
Okay.
If you get less
I'd
than
love
5,
to.
you might have time.
Great.
You might. You've got about another... well, yeah, you've only got a couple of hours, really. If you wanted to try something else out, you'd have to roll that D10 first to see how long it was going to take. Because you've only got 2 more hours available before you're going to have to get in the car and go there.
Nah, it's cutting it too fine. I think she would... Because she wants to do the investigating properly. She doesn't want to rush it. So she'll leave it for now, but she'll follow up on that. Like, that's interesting.
You have been booked into the accommodation from the 9th to the 11th.
Okay.
So check in on the 9th, check out on the 11th, which means you'll be spending 2 nights there, and the second night will be the night you would go to the gig. So once you all meet up, you'll have a whole day to investigate as a team.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Have I missed anybody? Is anybody else doing anything before you all meet up at the...
There is my failure.
Yes, what was it you were failing at?
Failing at finding out what the publisher, the record label was that they were with.
Yeah, you can't find any record of the record label at all. You spent some time looking into Van Halen, you found out who their record label were, and you were starting to make notes, and you were thinking, that's funny. I recognise the name of that track. Have I heard of these guys before? And when you go and buy an album, you realise, I'm researching the wrong bloody band.
Keep that to myself.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I've got one last thing I want to do before I go for the train and head into the land of the savages, aka England. I'm going to speak to the music journalist at the paper.
Yeah.
And ask him where I would get a copy of any Van Helsing albums. And my guessing is he's going to refer to me to a wee record shop on Weston.
This is exactly what he does.
Yeah.
He's over
On
the
West
moon
Nile
to have been asked.
Aye, West Nile Street or Gordon Street, because
Yeah.
it was originally Gordon Street, then it moved to West Nile Street. I'm going to guess that he would send me there for an import copy.
He's done exactly that. He sent you there for an import copy. He's over the moon to be asked. He's like, I really wouldn't have pegged you as a Van Helsing fan. They're a heavy rock band, like a metal band. I wouldn't. You don't seem the type. If you don't mind
I'm going to
mentioning it.
stand there with my high ponytail and my pink blusher and my leg warmers and go, oh aye, they're pure dead brilliant. Totally.
Don't forget the blue eyeshadow.
Blue eyeshadow.
So he's looking you up and down, like mildly confused, because you really don't look like this is the kind of band that you should.
I've even got a ticket for Newcastle.
You're joking? You've got a ticket for the Newcastle gig?
I've got a ticket for the Newcastle gig.
You know they're coming to Edinburgh, right?
Look, there's 2 places in the world that I hate going, and I did a toss of a coin. And if it landed on heads, I would go to England. And if it landed on tails, I would go to Edinburgh. It landed on heads. So I'm going down among the Geordies where they all drink brown ale and gravy. Aye. Also, the accommodation's cheaper in Newcastle. Have you seen what it costs?
Aye, that is true. Edinburgh is... It is a bit ridiculous, yeah. Well, okay. I mean, I've been to the Mayfair in Newcastle a few times. I think you're gonna like it. It's got a great sound system, and it's a little bit smaller than I would have expected for Van Helsing, to be entirely honest. But they're probably much bigger in the States.
So, is there anything you could tell me about the band? You know, obviously I know what they sound like and all that.
Yeah.
But I figure if anybody would have any gossip, you would be the man.
Yeah, there's not a great deal of gossip about them, really. I mean, they did have a member of the band disappeared after the previous tour. Nobody ever
Aye,
found him.
Andrew Sorgan. Aye.
Yeah, that's
And
it.
they had a guy leave, and he was Paul Whiteout because he lives in Washington.
Aye, he does. He lives in England, as it happens. He was originally English. He just kind
Well, we
of
won't hold that against him, will we?
well, no, he did kind of just fall out of the music industry after Van Helsing. I don't know if that. The rumor has it that he had a huge fight with the new guitarist that got in, and like, jealousy was largely part of that. But he's never agreed to an interview about it before, so nobody really knows for certain. And once he came back to England, he
that's
just kind of
sounding like a challenge. And I wasn't supposed to be wanting this trip, but that's sounding like a challenge. Nobody else would get. He would get when he get else an interview.
well, he kind of leans in conspiratorially. He says, "Well, if you were to get an interview with him, then your entire trip could be put through expenses.
Aye.
You get to see one of the world's greatest guitarists.
So
On
tell you what, I'm going to
pan.
get my wee notebook, my wee reporter's notebook out, and I'm going to say to him, if you could ask him 3 questions, what would they be?
If I could ask
Paul Whitehouse 3 questions. Whiteout. Aye, if you could ask Paul Whiteout 3 questions, what would they be? Because I figure,
that's a good question.
I know fuck all about this band, and I know even less about music. But except I know what I like. Obviously, I know what I like. Madonna and Eurythmics. But
see, that's much more what I would have thought.
Aye. See, but you know,
Okay, in that case, I would probably ask, but not in this order. One of the things I would definitely ask is why he left Van Helsing, because they were getting quite.
Aye.
Once Jackson Jammer joined, they went from a job and heavy metal band to like stratospheric. But to be honest, I mean, if you've heard them, even if you're going to hear them soon, so you will know that.
Of course, I've heard them. I've got a ticket for their gig in Newcastle.
Well,
I know.
there you go then. So you already know that Jammer is one of the best guitarists the world has ever produced. I mean, people talk about him as the second coming of Jimi Hendrix. So you could ask about that, and you could ask if there was any truth that there was some conflict between the pair of them. But I would leave that question to last, because it might kind of sour the situation a little bit. I would ask about the Fist in Your Face album, which I think was the second one they did after Jammer joined. I'm not going to prep you too much on that one. I'm just going to say ask him about it. There's rumours of some weird shit to do with that album, and just ask him about the album. See if he comes up with anything.
I'm going to say to him, and I'm disappointed in your mind.
Oh,
Right, a fellow Glaswegian saying there's a greater guitarist than Stuart Adamson.
Oh, I didn't say he was greater than Stuart Adamson. I said he was the second coming of Jimi Hendrix.
Well,
Obviously, Adamson's better than both.
Brian, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Would I have a satellite phone, seeing as I do have high security van transport stuff and work in the safari sometimes?
No, and not a private, not a private one. You would have one in your works vehicle, which you probably don't have with you. But at the time, actually, this is '86. The kind of car phones are starting to become a bit more popular. Depends what sort of income level you're talking about having.
I don't know. I think I'd probably have a Jeep that would have one fitted, and I would use it for work and normal stuff.
Well, by 1986, I know certainly my
Are you a
college girlfriend's dad had one.
Are you a yuppie?
It was largely yuppies,
Right.
although he was an
Aye.
engineer and he had one. But it was very much an upper middle class thing to have that kind of phone in the UK.
Yeah.
I'll say I won't have one. I'll just have a regular Jeep.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So no, you haven't. But bear in mind, in 1986, practically every third street had a phone box on it.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, about half of those were vandalised, but you know.
Yeah, that's true. And smell of piss.
Well, quite, yeah. So, for the third question, I would probably go with...
Who's the greatest living guitarist and why is it Stuart Adamson? No, seriously. No, that's the kind of thing a music journalist in Scotland would have said at the time, you know.
Yeah. So, yeah, ask
But
him...
yeah.
Ask him about... I mean, don't make all the questions about Van Helsing, because he was in a few other bands, so why don't you ask him about... let's pick one of the good ones he was in.
That band he was in before it called Van Helsing.
Van Helsing. Yeah.
White Stripes. No.
The White Stripes. I'm just randomly trying to come up with another band name here.
You'll just say that it
The
gives me a list of the bands the guy was in before, so I can ask him about them.
Yeah, ask him about one of
Led
them.
Zeppelin.
Yeah, I've marked the ones
Led
that I think are the most remarkable.
I'm going to make a note of them all because if he won't do me an interview, I'm going to start pressuring members of those bands for ways to get in touch with him.
Right. Yeah. Well, you do have. Was it you that found his number, or was it? Okay. You do have his number, so you can try and get in touch, or you can wait till you've met up with the rest of the team to see if anybody wants to come with you, and then you can message them and say like there'll be 2 or 3 of us or whatever. It's up to you.
No, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and phone him before. Bear in mind, I'm a lone journalist. I work on my own all the time. So I'm thinking I'll tell them that I've got an interview with him, but it'll be a case of I'll likely go on my own because I won't want them messing with the interview.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to phone him.
Okay. So I need to open that one again and find the how to talk him into it bit. Okay, so you have to ring him 3 or 4 times before you do eventually get through to him. So you've been ringing him during the course of the day, and eventually you get a kind of a gravelly male voice on the other end. Picks up the phone and goes, "Aye."
Is that Paul Whitehouse?
Aye, who's this?
Oh my god, I can't believe I've got you on the phone.
Oh,
my
you better
name's...
not be trying to sell us any fucking...
No.
Wolverine.
My name's Colette McClafferty. I work as a journalist. I
Right.
use a different name for my life. And I'd really like to interview you. I know that a lot of people are
Right.
probably trying to get in touch with you to interview you because, you know,
I mean,
one of
no.
one of your former bands is touring, but we've got no interest in that. We wanted to talk about your career before that band because obviously you were you're considered like a fantastic guitarist, and
Well,
your work
Stroking
before
his
that,
ego.
your work before that other band, you know, that's amazing. And we wanted to talk to you kind of like a retrospective of your career and to see what you're doing these days.
I mean, he's kind of thinking about it a bit. Let's see if you have kind of played to his ego a bit, and you did have a good...
A bit.
yeah, a bit. A good approach to it, so I'm going to give you a bonus on your journalism skill. So if you would like to roll a journalism test, please, against his reluctance.
against his reluctant skill.
Well, it's not a skill. He just has
I know I'm joking.
certain NPCs
Oh.
have a kind of.
Oh my god,
Oh,
that's a horrendous fail.
It's actually a pass because I did say I was giving you a bonus because of how you.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
But it's a very, very weak pass.
That's all right. Because obviously,
Right, you said, look,
My
no,
newspaper-
I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing.
no,
You're saying you want
don't.
to talk about me, but we're going to wind up talking about that band. And I've said before, I don't want to talk about them.
I don't want to talk to you about that band. I don't know. Do you know? I'm going to lay it on the table for you right here, Mr. Whitehouse. There's some stuff that's come out about their tour in America that I'm a woman and I wouldn't want to be anywhere near that band or anybody I thought was associated with that band. It's just that we're doing retrospectives of bands that were deeply influential on today's music, and you cannot discount the influence that you've had on how the heavy metal scene, how guitarists in the heavy metal scene have worked, and that you've been overshadowed and pushed out by that band and that man
Make
on
another roll.
guitar. That they like it.
63, that will be with your bonus then. So, oh shit, that's a critical. Right, okay. So, he goes silent for a little while.
But what I'm going to do, because I can understand, I can see, looking at our records, that you don't get interviews, and I can understand I'm just some woman on the phone that you've never met, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave my number with you. That's the news desk here, but you can ask to be put through to me. And I'll leave you to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if you want to talk to me, brilliant. If you don't want to talk to me, well, you've not wanted to talk to quite a lot of journalists. I can understand that. There we are.
Okay.
So I'll leave him my number.
So he hangs up on you at this point, but because you passed, he is going to ring back. So what we're going to say is he's going to ring back when you're on your way down to Newcastle. But because this is 1986 and you're a journalist, you will have a pager. So you will get a page from your news desk telling you to ring them at the first opportunity.
Right.
Obviously, in 1986, you couldn't make a phone call from a train, though, because trains didn't have phones on them, and very, very few.
My
people
best
had
hope
them.
would be get off at a platform and the payphone on the platform being working. But even then, I would likely no risk getting off the train.
So, by the time you get to Newcastle, are any of the other team members going to meet Colette at Newcastle?
Yeah, I'll be meeting her.
Okay. What about the rest of you?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll just bring up with
Yep,
everyone.
I will as well.
So you get off at Newcastle at Central Station, and you're like looking for a payphone.
I am pulling a massive pink suitcase,
And chewing gum.
chewing gum, and I'm wearing a pink sweatshirt with an Indolo on the front of it. It's a massive
Oh my god,
print of an Indolo.
that's kind of amazing.
You all want to meet at Oliver's. It's like a cafe near the train station. It was there in the 80s.
It was there in the 80s.
Oh,
It
okay.
was brilliant. I used to love Oliver's. The spiritual ancestor to Coupland's. Except their sandwiches were much, much, much bigger. And they made them right in front of you. So, anyway, so you get off at Newcastle Central Station, and you're already looking for a payphone, and you see them on the back wall. At this point in history, the entrance to Central Station is slightly different because all that glasswork isn't there. So when you go through the big wooden doors, the 2-story high wooden doors, out into that area, it's just a roof support. It's more of a carport. It's a roof supported by columns. The glass walls are not there, so the wind used to howl through that area. It's being controlled. You don't actually make it that far before you start spotting people. Actually, give me a perception test.
What, everyone?
No, I'm completely focused on the payphones.
Yeah. So you actually walk straight past somebody you've never met him before, but he's wearing an Indolo and you just don't notice. You walk straight past him and go up to the payphone, and without thinking, you're walking past Alexis, and you actually say, "Hello, Alexis," and just pick the phone up without it really registering. It's just standing there.
I'm just stood there looking at you. I'm like, okay.
It takes you a while. You're actually on the phone to the news desk, getting the information that Paul Whitehouse has agreed to see you.
Mm-hmm.
He will see you tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, and he's sent his address.
So the whole station will hear me yell, "Yes!"
Yeah. And as you look at, as it suddenly like clicks in your head, hang on, was that Alexis I just walked past? You look round and she's standing there with what essentially looks like a gang of save envoys. Is the best way to describe it. It's like
You just
4 other people, 3 of whom you've met once before, all wearing
Yeah.
Indolos. It looks like the save massive is in the house.
Yeah. I'm just going to tighten my ponytail and go up and go, "Hiya, sorry about that. Had to phone the boss."
all right. Have you found out something interesting?
Well. Aye, I've got some good news on that.
Oh, all right. Well, maybe we.
Should we find a cafe or something? 'Cause I'm
Yeah,
starving.
I think that's probably a good idea.
Do you know how much they wanted for a cup of tea? And it was disgusting. It was absolutely rank. So
You
I
know
went-
what, Colette? That might be because you're chewing strawberry bubble gum. I don't know. Like, did you take it out before you drank
I'm
tea?
not a peasant. I took my gum out before I drank the tea. Christ almighty, it's like going out with my maw. Oh, by the way, hiya.
I'll introduce the 2 that haven't met each other, I guess. Rupert and Colette, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'll say.
I won't make y'all use my professional name because it's aye.
Okay, so from this point you head over to Oliver's and have extremely pleasant sandwiches made in front of you. It's kind of, there's a lot of wood. All the furniture's wood. It's kind of a darkened interior. It's a little bit underlit in a way that wouldn't actually become popular for another 40 years. But if you imagine a modern fat hippo, where instead of sitting down and waiting to be served, you actually stand at the counter and they make a sandwich in front of you. But in every other way, it looks like a fat hippo. It's like dark wood, underlit.
I'm not a zoologist, but hippos aren't made of wood.
It's a restaurant. You
I can confirm, as a zoologist, they are not made of wood.
So you're now all sat in Oliver's round one of the tables, having your various sandwiches.
How was Sir Oswald thinking about this common establishment?
I'm not a posh bastard.
Are you not? Okay.
You're Sir Oswald.
I was gonna say.
I might be a little bit posh.
No. I want everybody to bear in mind, right? I went to university with the Duke of Buccleuch's son, and I didn't know he was the Duke of Buccleuch's son until somebody else told me.
I would just point out Marie's telling that as herself there. Not
Yes.
as, yeah.
Yes, that is entirely true.
You didn't know.
I was at a Kaylee, and a bloke goes to me, and I knew him slightly for lectures, and he goes to me, "We're having a party at my house this weekend. Do you fancy coming?" And I had to work, and I said to him, "I'm really sorry, I would love to, but I have to work." And my friend, one of my friends, chased me, considering they were male, this was quite funny. Chased me and the ladies, and he says to me, "What do you mean you have to work?" And I'm like, "I have to work. I've got work." And he's like, "Because that's the Duke of Buccleuch's son." I'm like, "Where the fuck did he go?"
that was the guy that saluted you at Langham
well,
the
your
first
mother-
time
your
I
mother
took you up there.
First time we went up to Langham, Brian's mum's going, oh, there you go, Grandad, there's the Duke's son tipping his hat at you. And your grandfather went, "It's no tipping his hat at me, he's tipping his hat at her." And I'm like, "Went to university with her."
Anyway, back to the game. So you're currently sat at one of the larger tables, and you can have your notes out here because it's kind of dark and just private enough. It just had a few of those corners that you could just you will not be overheard.
Yeah.
Or you will. It'll be unlikely you'll be overheard. So you can share your notes so far, so you can all tell each other whatever it is you've found out.
I'll tell them my dream.
Okay.
Okay. Start with that.
And now everybody else has shared their stuff. Do you know what the phone call I was doing was about? And that's why it was so important. I've got an interview with Paul Whitehouse.
Oh, you actually managed to get an interview.
I actually managed to get. I don't know if I'll get me talk about Van Helsing, but I think if I can talk to him enough about his old bands and play the kind of grudge he's got at how he got pushed at, how he's at the band and nobody seems to want to know him, I might be able to get me talk about Van Helsing, but I can't make any guarantees, but I'll do my best. Because he says very distinctly he didn't want to talk about them, which is fair enough, you know. But I might be able to get a bit of background or something out of him. We'll see what, you know. You'd be surprised at what people will tell you if you just sit there quietly looking at them.
You might be able to get him to let a few things slip if you mention certain things. I don't know. You know.
Would you tell us about Jammer?
What I found.
Is this Jammer, yes?
The interview with Jackson Jammer, do you mean?
The guitar... Is that the guitarist who replaced Paul?
He didn't...
No,
Well, sorry, you can go and tell him. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying who would give me that information, and then you can role play it.
Well, I mean,
also, so we don't all look like total idiots at this gig, right? I've managed to get some of their albums.
Yes, you have.
And I got them on CD, so I've been listening to this music. on my wee Sony Discman on the train.
So you've even managed to get the Fist in Your Face album that was mentioned, but I'm going to go to Jenny for now. So Jenny, could you finish what you were about to try and say?
I'll mention about Jackson Jammer having this weird interview that is apparently where he came across really arrogant and smug and that kind of thing, and that it was on the radio initially, but even the archives of that interview have gone missing, so I think that's something really strange. And I think from the information we've all shared with each other that it sounds like Jackson Jammer and Paul Whitehouse didn't really like each other very much. So I wonder if Colette could maybe, I don't know, you might be able to get him to rant about Jackson Jammer or something. I don't know.
This is what I'm hoping to do. I'm hoping to get him reminiscent. 10 o'clock in the morning's a bit early, so I can't exactly turn up with a bottle of whiskey, which was my usual preferred technique with an old guitarist, but alright. What I'm hoping to do is to reminisce with him about his other bands and his days of being a teenage prodigy or what the fuck ever. And let him talk about his own bands for ages, and then I'll gently sort of say to him, and where do you see things going now? And I'll leave speaking about the bit in between, so that he fills in the gaps.
Has Colette told us about the missing band member that was never found?
This is what I'll tell them. I'll after Jenny's finished laying out what she knows, I'm going to say, okay, so I pulled some stuff for the archives at the paper, and I talked to the music guy on the paper who bloody loves this band. What the hell? Anyway, apparently one of the guitarists went missing. A guy called Andrew Sorghum. Which I have to say, they've all got these made up names like Paul Whiteout.
How do you spell that?
Sorgum.
Okay, thank you.
You don't need me to spell Andrew, do you?
No.
Right, that's fine. Just, kind of a Scottish name, and I know what you're like.
The only other thing I wanted though was the name of that album. I wonder if we can get a vinyl version.
Fist in the vinyl.
Yeah,
Vinyl. We use CDs now. They don't have that background noise, and they don't wear out the same way. And you don't have to go into a record shop where some snooty git says to you, "What do you mean you've got a Bosch stereo?" And you're trying to tell them the make and model so you can buy a new needle, and they're trying to flog you a whole new stereo. No, sorry, no.
Just cassette tape.
Before I joined Save, I was
Has
out.
anybody considered the other victims?
Not yet. Haven't had
What's
time.
the connection between them? Because if we can find a connection between the existing victims, we might know who they're going to target next.
Well, this is why we've got Alexis Strange, because she's an investigator. I'm just a journalist.
And she could possibly contact the detective in America.
Did we get a cause
Sergeant,
of death?
sorry.
You didn't. You got a cause
Yes,
of
you
death
did.
for
It
one
said
person.
exsanguination.
Exsanguinated.
Exsanguination.
That?
It's a posh word for the other blood was away.
Well, if anybody, I mean, look, I've got a lot that I could look into here, and I didn't have time to look into everything else, but by all means, if anyone wants to help me with looking into some of this stuff, then
Certainly.
yeah.
This is a weird question. Is there a public library? Because if there's a library, Leo, what was that? Is there no a private one? The Lytton
Phil.
Lytton Phil, aye. What we could do is, we could go there, we could lay all the notes and things out on the table, and all of us could read over them. And then each of us takes a bit that we think we can investigate. What do we reckon?
Sure.
Yeah, that's a pretty good idea.
Interesting thing about the Lytton Phil is at this point in history, you could still smoke in the library.
Gross.
Even long before there was the smoking ban enforced in the UK, you usually couldn't smoke in a library.
Yeah.
But the Lytton Phil, you could.
All the books are now nice and yellow.
Do any of us actually smoke?
1986, probably some of you will, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have a pipe. If I'm posh, I'll have a pipe.
Yeah.
I'd say Alexis probably smokes.
My character by his pog looks like he never stops.
He does actually, doesn't he? Yeah. He does.
Also, like unfiltered roll-ups or something.
Yeah. Also, there's quite a
I'm going to say something that's going to appall everybody around the table who's watched me just demolish a massive sandwich full of fried stuff. I'm going to go, oh, I don't smoke, that's gross. My body is a temple, I'm into fitness.
I think everybody noticed because of, the leg warmers.
So, as I was about to say...
My character's only 26.
There's quite a famous record shop in Newcastle at the time. This is to tie into what Chris was asking earlier. There's quite a famous record shop in Newcastle in the 1980s. This continued right the way through the 1990s. It didn't close until the 21st century. But it's a basement one just up by Eldon Square, the actual Eldon Square, which is now surrounded by the shopping centre of the same name. It's up by there. It was off to the right-hand side and down some steps. You really kind of had to know where it was.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to do.
Quite a lot.
I was going to go to a place like that and see if they have a BT one. I wouldn't know what that is as a character, but I would ask the guy in the shop if there was a way to slow down CDs. Just to find out if there's anything weird about the music.
Okay.
Were people aware of backmasking at this point?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yes, they were. So, yes, you can go up there and ask them, or you could go to Windows in the arcade. Might be a better idea because the record shop largely sold records. Windows sells records in the basement, musical instruments on the ground floor, and stereo equipment on the upper floor.
My father-in-law.
Well, Colette said, I'm guessing what Colette said to me, because I was a bit out of thing because I've not really much into the technology currently because I wouldn't have really needed it.
Yep.
But if she's saying, "Oh, it's all CDs now," it's like okay, and I'll ask her if she knows like places.
Do you know, I never
things.
thought, I think I can see where your thoughts are going. You're thinking if you play it backwards, there might be satanic messages, aren't you?
Yeah,
I
I've seen
should have
something
thought
like that in
about
films before.
I should have thought about that. Because they had
Be a
the
bit on the
vinyl.
nose, though, wouldn't it?
Colette, do you have one of those pocket recording devices?
Oh, you mean a Walkman? Aye.
I think you're meant to,
Aye. Do you mean a dictaphone? Because I've got one of them and all.
That's
And I'm going to dig in a very massive handbag and bring one out. Yes.
then if you can play the CD, you can record it with that, yes, and play it backwards using that.
It would be better if we had it straight through a vinyl or the CD through a tape deck that's linked up together through a proper stereo. Because then you wouldn't get any background noise. We could do it, but you might get background noise.
Do you have that in your handbag?
No. No. It's not even in the wheelie case, although the wheelie case is big enough to hold it.
For those of you who are natives of Newcastle, or even the northeast, you would be aware that Windows had a listening booth.
Yeah.
So you would be able, if they had a copy of the album, you would be able to play it in the booth.
Mm-hmm.
When you say a native in Newcastle, it would have to also be around about 30 plus.
Why would you need to be 30 plus?
Well, I don't know if Ben would know what the listening booths were in Newcastle.
No.
No, he means at the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Apologies.
Oh.
We're not doing time travel here, so like this is set when it's set, so you would know if you were from the area.
Yeah.
At the time this is set, you would definitely know.
Okay.
When I was
What
16
time is
and I
it
knew
currently?
about it. Time? I'm gonna say it's probably. Well, you've just had your sandwiches, so we're gonna say it's lunchtime, roughly. Say about 12,
So we
1
have
o'clock.
time to do something.
So I think what we should do is we look at the notes for an hour, you don't spend all day poring over one wee bit. We look over them, we have a quick overview. We each decide bits somebody clearly wants. We can ask in there because there'll be a librarian and librarians know in. So we can ask in there if maybe there's somewhere with a listening booth or where we can buy vinyl records. Because, the back mask and the playing it back was Disney works so well with CDs. And I can go for there. Try to think if maybe we might be able to.
Yeah, the kind of deck you would need to play a CD backwards, quite rare at 1986. Became more popular in the 90s and the 2000s, and then you got those brilliant pioneers we used to use at Whitby Goth Weekend, where you could just treat a CD as if it was a vinyl.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a task.
Next with them.
American. Where is this concert?
It's at the Mayfair Ballroom.
It's roughly where the gate is now.
Aye. So if you're familiar with modern Newcastle, you'll know where the gate is, which has got all the bars and pubs and clubs and the cinema in it. All of that used to be the Mayfair Ballroom, which used to actually, the ground floor used to just be the entranceway and the offices, and you would go down the stairs into the basement, and it was this huge 1,000 person ballroom, and then it had like smaller mini clubs in the side rooms off the side of it. So you had like the Gearbox, which used to be like goth and indie, and you had the.
After I've had the look over the overview of the notes, I'm thinking there's some folk that might know something about the band that I'm not going to get through press contacts.
Well, the idea had that. Yeah.
The idea that Marc had about asking, putting his ear to the ground, asking what the word on the streets was. In the days before the internet, if people used to follow a band, so they'd be hanging about outside the venue, possibly try to find which hotel the band was staying at, so they could.
Well, those of you who are local, So far, you haven't discovered where the band is staying, so you don't know where the band is staying yet.
Probably
But
get more luck finding out information closer to it and on the day of the gig as more of the
Aye.
funds start to arrive.
I was thinking we could find little bits of information like that and the stuff, people hanging out and that from going and seeing the kiosk ticket master.
yeah, you might be able to do that. Also, you could ask in Windows and the other record shop. Also, anybody who is from Newcastle, you're going to know about a couple of places where you might find the kind of people that would be into Van Helsing. Because the mistake that Rupert made earlier was he was looking for a pop band, not realising that the band were a heavy metal band. So he was kind of hanging out in the wrong bars, essentially, asking the wrong people. But the two places in Newcastle where you might find the kind of people who would be fans of this kind of rock band would be Trillions.
Trillions, yeah.
And the Percy Arms.
Actually, yeah, the Percy Arms, the Dog and Parrot, and finally, the Broken Doll.
Ah, yes. I was going to say as well, you might get some information. Sorry, this is me speaking as Marie, not as Colette. The Dragon and George. Which is where a lot of the teeny metalers used to hang out.
Yeah, not in '86. They wouldn't have done.
No,
it was more of a mainstream bar then, if I'm remembering correctly.
So, as your save characters, who's into heavy metal?
I don't.
Oh yeah, I'm totally into heavy metal. Me, look at me. You know, tell.
You got to admit, you're looking around the team and thinking it's going to be a hard sell trying to get people to think that.
I know we don't exactly look like any of us.
It's Sir Oswald, obviously.
Yeah.
James kind of manually folding down his middle two fingers.
But it does mean
Alexis, I've got an idea.
Yeah?
I've kind of got a bit of an idea.
Okay.
Well, we could probably go in a shop and go and get some gear so that we look like rock chicks. Oh, fuck, I can't believe I'm saying this. And then we could go to the pubs and say we're down for the Van Helsing gig and who wants to talk to us about Van Helsing?
Yeah, I mean,
I
probably.
definitely agree we should have Van Helsing t-shirts, because if all of these murders have been done in or around their gigs, they were probably wearing those same shirts.
Well, that's the other thing with the Ticketmasters. They'll probably have the merch and we could buy it.
I hate to tell you this.
Rupert.
I'm about to ruin everything for everybody. But used to be all these grumpy old gits who go to you.
Is Carol going to the gig?
Aye. You've got if you're wearing the t-shirt, you better know who the band is. It's because before the internet, the only place you could get band t-shirts
was inside the gig. Yeah.
Inside the gig itself.
There is
Rupert is actually going to spend the day of the gig just hanging about outside the gig.
Good man.
Okay, yeah.
You're going to be the man on the ground finding out all the gossip.
So that'll be tomorrow. So you've still got this afternoon. So if you did want to send people around the local bars to ask the rock fans about the band, as was Marc's idea earlier, unfortunately not a bad roll, you could try again now.
Right, well... Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, I would like, if we can, I would like to contact Save America and see if we can get some reconnaissance from around the Pittsburgh area as to these other victims.
Right. Yeah.
I was going to say I want to do some research on the other victims, because Oswald is thinking, he's trying to figure out what kind of, I don't know, like entity would cause this kind of thing. Okay. So he wants to protect himself and the team against it, so he's going to try and figure that out.
Okay, so
yeah.
You would imagine you're talking about exsanguination, which is who's doing all the clicking?
I don't know.
Sounds like
not guilty.
I mean, do we know that all the victims were exsanguinated?
You don't. You only know about the one that was mentioned in the Save mission brief. But if Jimmy's going to ring the Save, one of the US officers of Save, you will find out that Yeah, all the other victims were also exsanguinated.
What was the blood type?
It varied.
Okay, and what were was there any commonality between them? Was it the same sex, same height,
So,
hair color, anything?
They're on drugs?
Not the same height, not the same hair colour. Some were on drugs, some weren't. Some were at the Van Helsing gigs and some weren't, but they were in the area.
Yep.
So some of the killings happened in the gigs. The earlier killings didn't. The earlier killings happened in areas of towns where the gig was happening, while the gig was
Right.
on, but didn't
Were they all
actually
wearing merch?
happen. No.
Okay.
So some of the original victims that were killed near the gig weren't actually rock fans.
Okay. Age range?
Age range, all of the victims would have been in their 20s.
Okay.
That's the first commonality you've found.
Right.
I'm also going to. This is a pure collatism. Which one of you nerds is Red Dracula?
Yeah.
Oh,
As
yes.
a-
Yeah.
Did they have puncture
I
wounds?
imagine I probably
Yeah.
would. Yeah, if they were missing them.
Yes.
They all had puncture wounds on the carotid artery or the
Save US cannot confirm that they all
jugular.
had puncture wounds, but they can confirm that some of the other victims did.
Right.
Can they
Marc
confirm
has
where
a
they were?
theory. Could we hear from Marc, because he hasn't had a lot of opportunity to be heard?
I reckon it's the band's bus driver who's bored out of his brain while the band are playing on stage.
It's just drinking people's blood.
Yeah.
That would tie into the fact that the original
It
killings
could be somebody
were
that's on the
around
band's
gig.
crew. It might not be any of the band.
Great,
Well,
yeah.
I'm gonna suggest to Jimmy as well to ask if he could get any of the American autopsy records.
Yeah.
I am going to do some research into that missing band member, by the way, just so.
Okay.
We
That
might also need to look into the crew.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's going to be a difficult one. So Jenny, if you could
Yep.
give me a investigation test on that one. Marc, you can't find out anything about the crew at the moment, because crew are people who don't tend to get mentioned in a lot of the. Oh, you know yourself, like you're almost invisible as a crew member. But when you get to the gig, you should be able to spot them, and you should be able to speak to them directly yourself there.
If
In
they're
fact, if you're
hiring,
going to hang, if you're going to hang outside, because you said you were, you're going to be able to speak to the crew member during the day directly. So tomorrow morning, Marc's character will find and be able to speak to the crew himself. Sorry, Ben, I cut you off. To go ahead.
I was going to say if they would probably be a lot of the crew would probably be hired specifically for this job, so they'd be locals.
Yeah, what you tend to get is you get tour crew and you get stage crew. Stage crew will be local and they'll be supplied by whoever the promoter
Yeah, they're
was,
the ones I was thinking of.
which is what like Marc and I have done that sort of thing for Kev's company before. The tour crew would come with the band. They would know the band a bit better, and they'll work with the stage crew when they get there.
And it
but
would
the
be
kind-
the
it's
tour
kind
band
of a
who would want.
handoff, yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Alexis, you mentioned the other missing band member. What did he do in the band?
What was Andrew Sorghum?
Yeah.
What was it? I don't think you actually said, Bryan.
I didn't, because the information that you managed to track down didn't include that.
Right, okay. Well, it was
I'll
Colette
bet.
who found out, but she would have told us.
Yeah.
So I'll say, well, I don't think we've got the information yet. Well, I'll try
bet he
and
was
find
another
out.
guitarist.
Might have
Possibly, yeah.
been.
Yeah.
Marc, could you add 50 insight points to your character for that idea about the crew? For anybody who can't remember, insight points are essentially the experience points of the system. Now, if I dish special insight points out like that, it does not necessarily mean you were right, just that it was an interesting thing that would move on.
Can't, because my character sheet is apparently laid out quite weird for me compared to other people.
All right, okay. Let me just take a look at it. It's the basic character sheet, so it's hard for it to be vastly different, but there is some differences that could happen. So, let me see. I'll add it for you. It'll probably be easiest.
Okay.
You are Rupert, and I think it will be in the. Oh, I see what you mean.
I like how his like nickname is Ripper, and then you look at his picture.
Yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah, but just never getting a knife fight with me.
I was just gonna say,
Yes. Absolutely.
is that what it is?
He's the Riddler's brother.
Right.
He
Yeah.
just looks a bit like the Riddler.
I see what you mean.
He
That
does.
is laid out very slightly oddly. But I will go in. I'll edit that, and I will stick your insight points at the bottom here.
By the way, I got passed by 70 on that investigation check.
You passed by 70. Okay, just give me a second to update marks. So as I
Yeah.
say, just because I've given you insight points doesn't necessarily mean you were right, but it means it was something interesting.
Okay, good
That
idea.
it was a good idea, even if it wasn't necessarily right. It may have been. You'll find that out as you go on, but it was definitely interesting enough to earn those insight points. I was actually thinking of giving more, and then I remembered it's capped at 50. So, Jenny, Alexa was looking into what?
I was going to do research on Andrew Sorghum, the missing band member, like when he went missing, circumstances, any information at all that I can find about.
And you passed by 60 odd. didn't you?
70.
Bloody hell. So it's a critical pass.
Hey.
So even with a critical pass, you're finding very little information. He was a... let me just have a look. What did he play? Yes, he was. He was another guitarist.
Okay, yeah.
And he... wait a minute. No, sorry. He wasn't. He wasn't.
Oh, okay.
He wasn't. He was, oddly enough, a keyboard player. What's odd about that is heavy metal bands of the period didn't really have a lot of keyboards. But when you look into it a bit closer, you discover that he was a multi-instrument musician. So he also played saxophone.
Okay.
That's a bit off a heavy rock, isn't it?
Not as odd as you would think. You would be surprised how many saxophones appeared in rock tracks in the 80s. He was also trained as a classical violinist, although he never played.
That would definitely be odd.
He never played the violin in Van Helsing, but he was trained as a classical violinist, and he was also a pianist. And he did play the piano in a couple of their videos.
Okay.
Pink Floyd is using Us and Them has a saxophone in it mainly.
That's right.
Are we calling Pink Floyd a heavy metal band because they're prog rock?
Apparently Google is though.
Yeah, more
Yeah, right.
more prog rock, I would have said, but it is one of those things that people.
Sorry,
What?
Ma's just twitching a little bit because someone said Pink Floyd. I'll be in a minute.
Once James
Marie.
finds some information on the dead people in America,
Yep.
I want to use that information to try and figure out what we could be dealing with.
Do you want me to take a investigation roll for that, Brian?
And the
Why are you doing that?
autopsy.
I mean,
You find out.
I don't think there's much more I can tell you than I did tell you.
Right.
All right. So the autopsy stuff doesn't.
Could you
give
see if there's any
extra
similarities? Sorry.
That's what we were trying to figure out with the autopsy.
I
but
mean, I
if,
literally
Yeah.
answered that at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
the-
Just
was
the
a-
age range.
Yeah, the age range seems to be the only thing that Jimmy can find that seems to link them.
could I
you
try
see-
and research all creatures that we know about that suck people's blood?
Yeah, of course you
Obviously, vampires are one of them, but I imagine there's others.
Wait a minute.
Fewer than you'd expect. It's
Good.
almost all.
Sturges.
It's almost all vampires that are bloodsuckers. However,
Okay.
Save recognizes over a dozen different varieties of vampire
Okay.
Right.
and
It's
believes there are others they haven't discovered yet.
Could you see if there's any familiarities with the venues?
Yes, that's a good idea. That would be something you would need a general investigation check for.
I was gonna say the autopsy thing I mainly suggested because you said Save couldn't confirm that they all had
Puncture wounds. Yeah.
puncture wounds, and I figured the
And we didn't know where they were either.
Yeah, and I figured the autopsy would potentially. Well, it should say if there was any puncture wounds found on the bodies.
It should, but unfortunately they're not a matter of public record, and it's highly unlikely that the American police are going to give them out to an English.
My hope was that
person with
because
no
we were
connection
contacting
with-
Save in
Like, do it
America,
through them,
yeah, that they might have the contacts to do it.
Yeah, they weren't able to get that information because bear in mind
Right.
the Save investigation into this band only began like very shortly before they came over here.
Okay,
So-
simple piece of information that we can probably get. Did all of the attacks happen at night?
Give me that in general investigation check then. You only need a pass. It doesn't matter by how much.
Okay.
Reason why I was asking about location, of the locations, whether the similarities like inside windows on the ceiling, stuff like that.
Right, okay, I'll get back to that in a second. I'm going to answer...
66.
Definitely a pass.
66, that's a pass. Yes, they all happened at night.
Okay.
Two of the casualties were discovered during the hours of daylight, but would have been the time of death was recorded as during the night. So yes, everybody was killed during the night.
Okay then.
Also, I'm going to add in, because you passed by quite a lot, because you passed by a critical amount, I'm going to say that you can also answer Chris's question about the venues and were they similar. There were a variety of rock venues, some large, some small.
They were all rock venues.
They were all rock venues, yeah.
Okay.
So the lady who we found out about on our mission brief, she collapsed right in the middle of the crowd.
Yeah, right in the middle of the crowd.
So it would have to be something that was stealthy or invisible, I guess.
It could look like, if you think about it, a vampire, it could look like two people just
Just kissing.
Yeah.
I
was some
I would also say, right, exsanguination, it may not have happened exactly at the time when she collapsed. She may have been exsanguinated, had a blood drunk,
Post-mortem.
Yeah.
and then her heart
And
gives
then
out
walked that
later.
location.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I agree.
Now, Ben, did you tell us about the start of your second dream or not?
Sure.
Because then
Although it's not really significant, I don't think.
well, they were flying and they couldn't be seen.
I mean, yeah.
Can I... Because Bryan, did I find out anything other than just what instruments Andrew Sorghum plays?
Not a great deal. He was a classical musician before he was a rock musician. He had suffered bouts of depression.
Okay.
The investigation into his disappearance was a little bit slapdash because the American police, dealing with somebody who has suffered from depression in the 1980s, let's just say they didn't put quite as much effort into investigating it as they might do now.
Is there nothing about the circumstances surrounding his disappearance, like when he was last seen, things like that?
He was last seen at the gig that night, which was in Pittsburgh, I believe.
Okay.
Let's just redirect it slightly. What other instruments does Jackson Gemma play?
That you know about. You don't know yet. But you haven't really dug deep into his background yet.
I'd like to know, and it might be a stretch, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway. Does he also play piano?
Okay. Well, you're running out of time a little bit because you've done a bunch
Right.
of investigation already. You've done 2 investigation checks. So give me 2d10. Let's see how much of the day you've burned doing it.
Okay.
Low roll.
Right,
That's
so
not
the
low.
rest of the day, you spend the rest of the day looking into it.
Okay.
So, in fact, some of the information you won't confirm till tomorrow.
Right.
But if somebody else who's got less on their plate would like to do an investigative test on the same thing, on the same lines of Jackson Jammer, feel free. Somebody else.
I did originally ask about it, so I
Yeah,
could
do you want to
help.
do it? Have you got
I don't have
investigation?
investigation though.
Okay, so you'll have to do it as an ability check. Yeah, it's going to be really tricky, this one, actually. No, to dig into this, you're going to need either journalism or investigation. If you don't
I
have
mean-
it, you can't really make the roll.
If I really can't find much more about Andrew Sorghum, like I am going to be looking into everything,
Yep.
including any sort of reports of his disappearance and all of that. But if there really isn't anything else, I could also look into Jackson Jammer a bit more.
Okay, well, give us a D10 to find out how many hours you spent looking into Sorghum.
Something else I want to ask as
If you
well.
if you get the report for the autopsy, I do have biology, so I could always see if there's anything in the
Couldn't
notes
get-
that seems a
Nobody
bit
could
off.
get the autopsy.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
As I said, the Americans are not going to share autopsies with unofficial British people.
With the British. Ew.
I mean, they might if like there was an Interpol request, but just a bunch of guys ringing up and going, "Any chance you could give?" No, that's not happening.
Hanging
Okay,
up.
so Alexa,
Quite
you only
reasonable.
spent an hour looking into Andrew Sorgan and realised there just wasn't a great deal there to dig into. So you do still have enough time to do another investigation if you wanted to try and dig into Jackson Jammer or something else.
Yeah. I'm also going to suggest, I don't know if anybody else might be able to find this out, but I'm curious if we could find out off Save if there are any types, because you said there were different types of vampire, yeah?
Yeah.
Are there any types of vampire that can drain a victim and cause them to also rise as a vampire, or
This
how
is the
many
kind of thing
types
I'd be looking for, because I
Right.
want to try and figure this
Okay, Ben, do you have Legends and Law?
out. As a skill, no.
Yeah. Okay, so you're going to have to use the save thing to do that. So it's going to be a luck test.
Okay.
See if you can find, if you can A, get through, and B, find somebody who's got time to do the research for you and get back to you.
A luck test. Mine's 62.
That's pretty decent.
That's what you got.
No, that is my roll. So I roll a D100 and then.
So yeah, you roll D100 and tell us how much
Oh,
you
boy.
passed by.
Oh,
Well, I
oh
failed.
dear.
Okay, so the information you get back from Save is that they're really snowed under at the moment, but they'll try and get that information to you as quickly as possible. But when you don't get it back tonight, unfortunately, so you can make another roll tomorrow and see if you can get it from them then.
I'm
Do
gonna
I have time to do other things?
Yes.
Because I've been thinking about my dream, and the dream pretty much confirms it's a vampire.
Don't know what type of vampire that's.
No,
like.
it doesn't. So it says that I stab a stake through a music magazine.
Yeah.
I stab a stake through a picture of a heavy rock band. It
Yeah.
doesn't say which one.
If you could get to the question, because Patrick's desperate to get a question in, so...
I want to go visit the morticians. I want to try and find the mortician that I saw in my dream.
Right, random mortician, you construct...
Well, there can't be that many morticians in Newcastle.
There'll be
I just
quite
gotta
a
go.
few. There'll be quite a few. There's no guarantee the mortician was in. Also, it was a dream creation, so it will have been your subconscious will have created that mortician. It won't be a real person. You'll not be able to find them. So, Patrick, go ahead.
I'm going to throw this out there. Vampires need a resting place. Traveling
Yeah.
vampire, potentially depending on the clan or variety of vampire, might need their own home soil. Now, a band are going to be travelling with a lot of crates that are going to be manhandled about and opened up, and various things happen to them. They'll be an awful lot more careful with instruments. Just thinking of, did you tell us about the pine box?
Told you about
From the
everything.
dream? He told us everything. Brilliant. Okay. How would, if I was a vampire in a band and I needed a coffin hidden in plain sight,
Have it as a set piece.
a piano,
All that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I would literally have it as a set piece. I think heavy rock band, you could have the theme being like undeath.
there
Oh,
are,
absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
they used to do like a cover of Blockbuster, and at the start of the song, he would jump out of a coffin.
Yeah.
Exactly, like it would literally be the perfect ruse.
Oh, yeah, it would. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Jenny, could you give me that investigation check now, please?
yeah, passed by 21, and I do want to look more into the missing interview thing, as well as just general stuff about what we're looking for Jackson Jammer.
Okay, so you got a M result on the Jackson Jammer thing, so let me just get a handout for
A
that.
mighty good result.
Medium result, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it wasn't the
So-
best roll. I rolled, like,
So same
8.
thing, I'm going to make a slight adjustment here. I'm going to edit this and I'm going to copy just the stuff you've actually
Black, black.
found out into the player's bit.
I was to narrow it down.
Copy. And pop that in there. And save changes. And I will show that to you. And I'll also read it out so that the audience
Okay.
at home can hear it. Okay, so what you found out about Jackson Jammer is that music critics considered Jammer to be one of the greatest living rock guitarists, not only of his time, but of all time. During the 1970s, Jammer was not as successful as he is now and mostly worked as a session musician.
Okay. Is there anything that I can find about this missing interview then? Like, anybody recall, like, who actually heard it at the time?
Give me a separate investigation check, and this is going to be the last thing you'll have time for today.
Okay. Passed by 74.
Passed by 74, right, yes. Legend has it. And this has never been officially confirmed. Well, yeah, it's never been proven, I think is more the term, but legend has it. The tape of the interview, the master tape that the radio station had, burst into flames when it was taken somewhere where the window was uncovered and sunlight hit it and it burst into flames.
Oh, wow. I'll let everybody know this. I'll say, well, this is very interesting. Sounds quite vampiric, doesn't it?
Does that narrow down
Sounds like sounds like a bit of a health and safety concern. I was going to suggest that maybe we try and track down a bootleg, because there's always people vlogging bootlegs outside gigs. But maybe know if it's going to burst into flames. I don't want to burn. I don't want to be remembered as a journalist that burnt down a travel lodge.
I'll say, that might be something to maybe try and get
If we keep the curtain shut, we'll be fine.
White House to talk about. See if he listened to that interview, maybe.
Okay.
If you can ask him, what's Jackson Jammer's real name? Because I'm not buying that as a real name.
Yeah, it sounds fake, doesn't it?
Guys,
I'm
I want to
thinking-
remind you again. He agreed to this interview.
Yeah,
I know.
He didn't want to
Try
talk
it this
about
way.
Van Helsing.
Try it this way. Ask him if he's ever heard of Jack Jameson.
Okay. You're great journalist. I'm sure you can get him to let us
Yo,
know
don't
a
you
few
be trying
things.
my tactics of buttering people up on the ass you're doing there.
Guys, I'm just going to go quickly to the bathroom. You continue to roleplay through this thing, and I'll just keep recording it. I'll be back as soon as I can.
I'm basically going to try, and I'm going to try and leave a gap in the conversation for him to rant about Van Helsing, because I think he said he doesn't want to talk about this band, but I think he does. And I think if I just leave the space for him to talk, then he'll talk. But I might not be able to interrupt him and ask questions and be able to keep it going.
Could you
and
go?
Then I'm going to have to write a piece, a retrospective, that a guy I'd never heard it yesterday, and some shitey bands I've never listened to in my life. Because let's face it, none of them are just going to be as good as Eurythmics, are they? I mean, are they?
Well, no, I mean, I agree, actually.
It's
well,
a two-world world after all.
Do you think you could maybe slightly provoke him by wearing a Van Helsing t-shirt when you go to see him?
Well, see, that would be one idea, but I can't buy a t-shirt till I'm in the gig and I'm doing the interview before the gig.
Is there somewhere, do you think, that we could get, like... I reckon...
I think the way I'm going to play it, right, is I'm not going to turn up there looking like a rock chick, and I'm not going to turn up there looking like my fine, fashionable self. I'm going to try and turn up there looking like a music journalist, and considering I've seen the scruffy bastards, I brought a pair of jeans that I usually only use when I'm painting the house.
What about a badge, like a pin badge? Sorry, I'm just thinking that it's probably not a good idea to try and provoke him.
Would like HMV not sell merch?
You know, Ben, I'm sorry, I'm really old, but HMV only used to sell records and tapes and CDs.
Yeah.
And there was something else they sold. Music magazines.
Yeah.
They sell sandwiches now. For some reason.
What? They sell sandwiches?
Yeah, they sell all sorts now.
What the fuck?
I was saying, what about Woolworths?
Woolworths, yes, there was a Woolworths in Newcastle at the time.
I used to work in Woolworths when I was 15.
They used to sell band t-shirts.
Yes. Yes, but...
yeah, but they used to sell band t-shirts, right? They used to sell band t-shirts of the most famous bands on the planet.
Yeah, most famous pop bands and stuff.
And they didn't used to sell t-shirts of heavy metal bands that have only been heard of in America.
No. Because I worked at Woolies. I worked at Woolies.
They're pretty big.
Like in the 90s. It was my first job, so...
Somebody I went to school with, right, was a massive Journey fan. And if he wanted a Journey record, his auntie in America used to post it to him. And Journey went platinum multiple times. What the Americans listened to and what we listened to were two very different things.
Quite different at the time. It's not so much like today. Okay, so you're running out of time on the day. So
I was wanting to go if there was time to go to Windows.
Yes, I was actually about to ask if anybody was going to do that. No, that's fine. That's fine. I would rather you told me than me ask, so that's grand. So yes. So, Chris, you go to Windows and you are able to actually find a copy of Fist in Your Face on vinyl. So if you wanted to hear it in the listening booth, you would be able to.
Okay. I'll do that.
Okay. So, Chris, you listen through to it. Give me a perception check, please.
A skill I have.
Marc, I sent you a message in the chat.
Oh.
Oh.
Okay, so you've passed. You've passed by one. There's a point in the record that you think that just sounds a little odd there. I'm sure that's...
Kill JFK. Kill JFK.
I'm sure there's some backmasking there. So you start to play it backwards. And sure enough, you find a hidden message recorded backwards on the Fist in Your Face album, just as you suspected.
Okay.
And the message says, play more role-playing games. Play more role-playing games. Play more role-playing games.
Okay.
That's it.
There is one thing I want to try and catch some shops in Newcastle before the end, so I can get some rope chick looking outfit for the pubs.
Okay. Don't forget you can pick that up tomorrow as well if you want to. So.
No, it was so I could get a bead on them tonight because I'm hoping to maybe get a bit of information before I go to this interview tomorrow.
Marc,
Okay. You can do a little bit of shopping. Yeah.
Sorry, I was...
The second one, Jenny.
Right, so you're just waiting until... Okay, fair enough.
Okay, so... Alexa, Colette, you've managed to pick up some outfits and whatnot. So while you're doing this, if you wanted to use journalism to ask some of the people at these kind of
that was my
like
thought.
bar and whatnot.
Yeah, I'm going to ask them questions. There's a few questions. The first one is I'm going to chat to them about how I'm down there. I'm down for the Van Helsing gig, but I got here and I haven't got nothing suitable, so I thought I'd buy some new clothes. Being the first, and the second thing I'm going to say is, and you do know that Paul Whitehout that left the band's logo here. Do you maybe know him?
Okay, give me a journalism check.
When is Colette doing this interview with him? Is it tomorrow?
Tomorrow morning, yeah.
10 a.m. tomorrow morning.
So it's the same day as the gig, but it's in the morning.
Right, okay.
Journalism, 19 pass. Okay, so you don't manage to find anybody who actually knows him, but you find a couple of people who know he lives somewhere in Washington.
Because I'm sure he'll have given me his address, but obviously I'm not dishing his address out.
He did.
I'm just trying to find out if there's any gossip about him.
No, there's not actually, not particularly.
Okay. And also, I'm going to presume that it's just all the usual, oh my god, they're like the best band ever, I love them, I'm going to see them.
There is quite a lot about that, but let me just see if you find out anything more about the band from conversations with the fans. So give me a second journalism test for this. You could really do with a nice high number. Or you could fail it. So
and clearly they've pegged me as a pop music fan and they're no talking to me.
Yeah, some of them have. Others do tell you a little bit of stuff, but it's nothing you haven't already found out.
So, Bryan,
yeah,
you said there was something weird about the actual album. Is there anything weird about the words then, in general, if there's nothing secret about them?
What do you mean nothing secret about them?
You said that you made the joke on playing it backwards.
That wasn't a joke.
Was it not?
Oh, yeah. I was gonna comment on that as to whether it was or not.
No.
I would say go to a place that sells role-playing games and look for something related to Van Helsing.
Okay, so it would what would exist then?
Forbidden Planet.
Oh, Forbidden Planet.
Forbidden Planet, yeah.
Games Workshop would have existed in 1986. There was one in Newcastle as well, just round the corner from Forbidden Planet.
Was this band known to have played things like this?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not. They're not known to have done. It doesn't mean they didn't.
Is it this like satanic panic time?
In
No.
In 1986, you're in the middle of the satanic panic in America, where everybody is convinced that two things are satanic. They're convinced heavy metal music is, and RPGs are.
And then it would be perfect for a heavy metal band.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So that's probably...
You've got no knowledge that they actually played, but you don't know they didn't either.
Were their sets known to look like, sort of like it came from a world like that?
I mean, this is the thing. It's 1980s heavy metal bands. They all looked like they'd stepped off a Dungeons and Dragons.
Honestly, they probably put that in there just to cause a stir if someone happened to do that.
Just to cause controversy.
Yeah.
Did you recognise the voice that was saying it?
That's a good point. Give me a perception test.
No. Definitely not.
So you didn't particularly know, because they were kind of putting on a little bit of a voice, and you felt like you'd heard it before, but you couldn't quite put your finger on who it was.
You could look at like the album art and stuff for any symbolism or anything as well.
Hmm.
And I take it only Aiden heard it because he was in the listening booth. None of the rest of us.
Unless anybody went with them to the to Windows Arcade.
I was busy all day, wasn't I?
You were actually, yes,
I
that's
was
right.
busy as
Lent
well.
a dictaphone from someone. I guess, or Ripper. I don't know what Ripper was doing.
Colette did say she has a dictaphone.
I mean, Rupert
Yep.
could potentially have gone with you, but Marc said he didn't want to do anything until.
I mean, I guess I could have went because, I mean, if I had enough time, I don't
Yeah.
think I've done too much.
Okay, well, anybody else who went with them to the record store can make a perception check to see if when they hear the voice doing the backmasking, they can figure out who it is.
Well, this is an entire album. Did you listen to the entire album?
Yeah.
So was that only on like one specific song?
You want me to roll to see how long it took?
Yes, it was. No, you don't need to do that, because
The duration of the entire album.
it would only take about an hour or two at the most to do this.
I'll look at the album art as well while he does the perception.
My perception is 72. Did you add this as a... Oh, you did. Never mind. 47.
Right. You do recognise the voice just barely. You're not 100% sure because Jammer doesn't sing on most of the songs.
Mm-hmm.
But on some of the tracks in Fist in Your Face, he does do some of the back-end vocals. And you think it's Jackson Jammer.
I do say that seems to be the lad who does the backing vocals.
Yeah, I was too focused on the words rather than the voice.
Yeah, pretty much. I think that's a good explanation of what happened there. Yeah.
And which track was it hidden in?
Yeah, one of them.
It seems to be hidden in one of the tracks.
Right, so the title wasn't significant, and the
Right.
number of the track wasn't significant.
No.
Okay.
Marc, so you're listening to a lot of their music overnight. It says here, Mark's just typed, I'm going to spend the evening listening to their music and comparing the lyrics to possible historical evidence of actual vampirism. So,
I'm guessing we don't have time to go to Forbidden Planet this day.
I mean, yeah, you probably would. It wouldn't take long to go to Forbidden Planet.
Mark's gonna wake up
can I
with an
just
uncontrollable urge to play D&D.
deal with Mark's query though, not as in the cool movies I watched, and more. This is what I did on my holidays. So okay, what you notice, Marc? Actually, give me a perception check because you might not notice this. But there are definitely references. Yes, you're going to notice it. So some of the music. I mean, first of all, every single song after Jammer joined sounds different to everything they did beforehand. When people say he's a musical genius with a guitar, they really fucking mean it. He's very, very, very good. A skill level that exceeds his years is how you would probably phrase it.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, is it almost like he's been playing guitar for a very, very, very long time?
Yes.
Like he might have at some
Also-
point been on a crossroads and made.
Yeah, do you know?
Yeah.
Do you know, Patrick? It came out of your mouth, but I was thinking it.
I'm guessing you might be very good at classical music as well.
Yes. So, Marc, there is an actual reference to the Crossroads and the famous story of
Robert Johnson.
Robert Johnson at the Crossroads selling his soul to the
Yeah.
devil in order to
It
become
wasn't possible to do a heavy metal album in the 80s and not reference Robert Johnson selling his soul at the Crossroads.
True. Well, what's
Yeah.
particularly interesting is on that particular song, there's a instrument that initially you mistook for guitar, but when you listen more closely, you realise it's not a guitar; it's a banjo.
Huh.
God.
And whoever's playing it is a master of banjo.
Interesting.
I'm gonna ask. Would also
Hear me
know?
out
No,
on
you
this.
didn't get a reply. Never mind.
Just a second, Marc, go ahead.
Do we have any way for us through somewhere or Save
Yep.
have a way of isolating that banjo track.
Yes, but it might take a while to do.
I know it could take a while.
Yeah, but yes, they could do it. Give me a luck test. If you pass by enough, they'll get it done today. If you don't, then it'll be tomorrow or later. It'll depend on how good your pass is.
There's something I want to ask after he's done this.
Likewise.
I can't roll luck.
You can't actually, so I should have set luck up as rollable, but it didn't occur to me that might happen. So just roll D100 and tell us how much you passed by, if you pass. Shit, quite a lot.
Possibly,
Quite a
we're
lot.
going to possibly give
57.
him
Passed by 50.
57.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay. So that's a critical, just what it is, which means, as luck would have it, there's somebody at Save local headquarters can do that for you and have it out to use after this evening.
Yeah.
So you will get an isolated track.
Ask them also, before they send it back, ask them also to run the banjo track and see if they can link it to any pieces of music known to
Nice
Save.
one. Nice one. I think I might be giving you some more experience. XP for that. So, because of how much you passed that luck roll by, I'm going to say yes, they've linked it to a piece of music, folk music, from the New Orleans sort of area. That was popular in 1886.
Right, okay.
I have a couple of questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the first one was, would I be able to see if Oswald can get hold of Save again to find out if there's some vampires that are more inclined to use things like music or their voice to implement doing things?
Yeah, there are types of vampires that are similar to sirens that use
Glamour.
Also, the alpine vampire is said to have. It's not that they sing so much; it's just that they're said to have a very commanding voice that can make people do things just by telling them to do things.
The yodel.
The what? Sorry.
The yodel.
They don't yodel, no.
Alpine vampire.
Well, I suppose
the
some of
banjo
them.
might be the item that they use. But the other question was from the very beginning of the game today, you told us of the locations, and one of them was New Orleans, which seemed a bit far out compared to the other ones.
Okay.
I was just wondering if there might be a connection there.
It was, yes. Marc, you're quite right. It was the first one. You're not really sure what the connection in New Orleans is, and the tour does seem to skip a large area in New Orleans. You've no idea why, but you are correct in noticing that that's.
Can I ask a couple of things as well? And I know Patrick wants to.
Let's hear from Patrick first, because some people haven't had as much.
I've got one very short one, and possibly a longer, more involved one now.
Okay.
Have we checked the sleeve notes of the album?
You can do. It'll be right in front of you. Yeah.
Well, I'm not there. I'm busy, but I'm
I would have
throwing it
made
up.
a call as I left the windows.
Right.
So I'll have it on me.
Okay. So what are you looking for on the sleeve notes? They're surprisingly Spartan. For the 1980s, where bands used to write entire fucking stories on their sleeve notes,
Yeah.
these are just like guitarist, bass player, singer, very little else. Oh, actually, you do notice one thing of interest on the sleeve notes. A big thank you to Max. That's it.
Max.
Yeah. Van Helsing would like to say a big thank you to Max.
Is there any other mention of?
Was it written different to the other parts?
Starting with the question that was being asked first, Patrick, that would have been you, and you were asking what? Sorry.
Was there any other references to Max anywhere on the album? Anything else that we've seen?
No.
Is there a Max or Maximilian
No.
or Maxine
Nope.
anywhere?
Nope.
Right.
Nothing at all.
I'm just
Now,
going to say
Chris.
this is out of this is player this is
Can I-
character, not character knowledge, but it's player knowledge. And I just saw the film on Friday. Max is the head vampire in the Lost Boys. I'm
Chris,
sorry if that was a spoiler for anyone that hasn't seen a film that was released in 1987.
I was just about to watch it, Marie.
so
My
Chris,
God.
could I get that question from you, please?
If the writing that says thanks Max was different to the rest of the sleeve.
Nope. Exactly the same.
Just a more involved question, because of New Orleans and the sort of Creole link. Are we absolutely certain this is a vampire and not something involving voodoo?
Well, with my dream combined with the evidence we have,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Be a hell of a red herring, though, wouldn't it?
That's why I did suggest to check the album art in case there was any symbolism that could link to anything. So that's something potentially as well.
well, we haven't asked what kind of style the band go for. If they do go for the undeath style,
Yeah, there is a lot of that in there. Does anybody have art criticism as one of their skills?
Let me check.
no.
I have antiques, graphology, and forgery history.
Actually, give me a history check.
Can I also give you a history check?
Yeah.
See if I can hopefully get a better roll. Fuck's sake.
Oh,
Why does history cost me willpower?
what the fuck?
Because you have to bring yourself to read a book.
It shouldn't do, so ignore that. And let me just take a look at your character sheet to find out why it does. So,
Are you cursed?
I just really hate history, apparently.
Apparently, yeah. Got a
so
skill in
there
it, but
is
you
a
fucking hate it.
possibility that there is. Okay, so that should read 81. So let me just make sure that it does. It does. Because it seems to carry a part in the. Let me just cut this out. In the macro that shouldn't be there, that's only for disciplines of the art. So let me just.
I wonder if there's
It'll
a
have been
banjo.
a cut and paste thing. There we go. That's it working properly now.
Cool. Oh, can I have that roll? That's
no.
a better roll.
No, you can't, but Marc did get 21, so Marc is actually going to find some stuff out about something.
About something.
You don't know what yet, but about something. So 21 and 21 against 3, so that is an M result. So Marc, you found out that somebody earlier mentioned that they didn't believe Jammer was his real name. So in the late 1950s, a guitarist matching the description of Jackson Jammer, but named Jackson Delacroix, played for a group called Little Antoine and the Ambassadors. Several young women died near the high school and the military base where the band played. The deaths seem remarkably similar to those reported at the Van Helsing gigs.
Delacroix of the Cross.
Yeah. Also, during the 1950s, a Chicago guitarist by the name of Jackson Delacruz was popular in the Rio Grande Valley. At that time, there were stories of a mysterious plague killing migrant workers.
And I think that's also of the Cross, but now in Spanish.
It is. Yeah.
Okay.
So it does look like he's probably a vampire.
So I am going to add those bits
Shall
into
we
your
put one and
research
one and
on
one
Jackson
together
Jammer
and
bit.
make three?
Sorry, Marc, I accidentally talked over you there, so could you say that again?
They're just saying, can we put one and one together and make three? And say, We're going to get you, you vampire mofo.
Yeah, I mean, it is looking suspicious at this point.
I mean, it is, but we might need to figure out what type of vampire it is. If we
It's probably
if there's
vampire
different
type.
ways to kill it. Do you know
The
what I mean?
thing is, as well, also don't think we can assume that he's the only one.
Well, I was gonna ask, because there was a band member disappeared.
Yeah.
Andrew Sorghum.
Yep.
When I was doing my research about him and Jackson Jammer, did I find anything about the relationship between Jammer and Sorghum?
No, you
didn't. Right. And when did Sorghum disappear, and when did Jammer join the band? Like, are there any correlations between the two?
Sorghum disappeared shortly after Jammer joined the band.
Who
Right.
was the
So
person killed at the New Orleans one?
Sorry, was there or who was?
Was there and who was there?
Well, I don't know who it was off the top of my head, but yeah, there probably would have been.
Okay.
okay, so it sounds like Sorghum's probably been killed by this.
Or he's hiding out somewhere wearing a garlic t-shirt.
Yeah, or he's been made another fucking vampire. Sorry, go on.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just finishing what I was saying. Although I will quickly ask: is this the first gig in the UK that they're doing?
Yes.
Right. Okay. And there's not been any deaths in the UK yet.
Not yet. There's this gig tomorrow night at Newcastle, and the night after that they're in Edinburgh.
Okay.
Then London.
Right.
Going back to the victims and links between them, were they all of the same religion?
No.
Okay.
It's unlikely that there would have been, so I'm going to say no. Okay, and with that, unless anybody's got any quick questions left, I'm going to move on to a different scene.
Were they all women?
I did ask if they were the same sex.
Did you?
Yeah, you did.
I did.
No, they weren't. They were predominantly women, but they weren't all women.
But that doesn't predominantly. So it suggests that
It has a preference. Yeah.
any male victims, though. I'm thinking like it's whoever he could maybe seduce. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Could be.
And so there'd be less gay men or whatever if it's like a guy, presuming it is Jackson Jammer, and so that would make sense as well. So dominantly, yeah.
So I am going to move on to the next scene, so that we can progress the plot a little bit, because you've all spent a lot of today doing things. Nobody really has time to do anything else now. You can continue to bounce ideas and questions around, of course, but in order to keep the game moving, let's move on to the next day. So you've spent the night at the hotel, which is one of the early Travelodges. Looks very similar to the modern Travelodges, to be entirely honest.
Does it have a Gideon's Bible?
I don't think the Travelodges did, but I could be wrong about that. But there's two rooms. They adjoin one another, so they're like literally next door in the same corridor on the same floor. So 3 men are in one, 4 men are in one, and the two actually. They're going to have to be 3 rooms, because there's more player characters than I thought when I set that up. So there's 3 rooms, 2 of you in each. The women in one, 2 men in another one, 2 men in another one from there.
All right.
So you get a good night's sleep at the Travelodge. It is, as are most Travelodges, functional. And, well, a lot of you are researching well into the night, to be fair. But you're going to have some sleep, because the next day is also going to be quite
we have to stay awake for the game.
I'm asking if we're sleeping because I could have my dream.
Ah.
We're definitely going to know their songs by the concert.
You can try another prescient dream if you want to, because you didn't actually succeed. So you can try.
Can I
again.
get back my 10 per hour of sleep?
Yes, you can. So
But that would bring me up to
you will
max.
get about 8 hours of sleep. So yeah.
Okay, but I'll increase that after. I actually passed this time.
Hey.
Fuck
You
me,
did?
that's expensive.
Right. Okay. So let me read out the second dream. Then. Just a second till I find it. So.
I had a dream.
Dream chick. There you go. You can fly. You sail down the city streets at an incredible speed, passing cars, turning in intersections, but strangely, drivers and pedestrians don't seem to notice you. You cross the sidewalk and turn towards a dilapidated house. Its front doors bursting open, and you fly through the rooms.
I'm the vampire.
I'm just going to give it a second till whoever's making all that racket stops making all that racket. Right, you are. And its front doors burst open and you fly through the rooms, down the basement stairs and into a hole in the basement floor. The hole opens into a tunnel and its darkness frightens you. But you plunge onwards against your will. Then you see ahead eyes glowing red in the blackness. First one pair, then two, then more. You try to stop yourself, but there's nothing you can do to keep from flying into the arms of whatever those eyes belong to. You awake screaming.
I have a feeling that I might have been the vampire at the start. The whole flying around and not being seen, because that would fit with, sucking the victims and not being seen.
Yeah.
You could be seeing it from the vampire's point of view.
Yeah, that would make more sense as to why I was scared.
Yeah. Could I get a fear test from you for that?
Certainly, I am going to spend the day trying to find that house.
Okay. Again, if you
what would
see
be a
them in
fear
a
test?
dream, you're not really going to be able to track these things down. I mean, you're looking in an entire city just looking for a house that looks like that. That would be a waste of time. You wouldn't find it.
Did the
And
city
you would know
look
that.
British or American?
Very difficult to say, but it certainly didn't look like Newcastle.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, then I wouldn't do that.
I'm just thinking it could also be astral projection, but
Could be.
What would
because-
be a fear test?
Fear test would be a willpower test. So we have
I'm
set
guessing
that
with
up.
my current willpower.
Yes, that's right. So with the restored willpower, yes.
With the restored, so my 60, not the 53 I currently have.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Oh,
Oh, and a fail. Oh, great.
oh no.
So, you know how you just recovered all your willpower? You have just lost... well, let's find out. I have clicked roll. It is rolling 9.
9. Wonderful.
Many glowing red eyes. It could be demonic.
There
It
seem
could
to-
be the
Sorry, go ahead.
could be the entire band's vampires by this point.
That would fit
But
in with
why would the
first
vampire
dream.
be scared?
Well, like Mark said, it
no,
could have been
hang
me.
on.
Could be
Right.
scared of being found.
When you have your prescient dreams, do you feel your own emotions or do you feel the emotions of a person you're riding?
Yes, they're not your own
Cool.
emotions. They are not necessarily real emotions of anybody. They're trying to send you a message, a cryptic message of some kind.
Right.
So the emotions that you're feeling are not yours. They may be somebody else's, but they may just be a general sense.
And it could have been you seeing through the eyes of someone astral projecting rather than a vampire.
It's possible,
Possible?
but you wouldn't really be seeing through someone else's eyes because, again, this is a dream construct trying to send
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
I know
a
what I mean,
cryptic
but
clue. So it could be implying somebody is astrally projecting,
yeah, that's what I mean.
but you wouldn't
like-
actually be seeing through that person's eyes.
Yeah. I mean, that's
Could be a
Do-
net.
Does anybody on the team have psychometry?
No.
What's
No,
that?
I have astral projection.
Psychometry is the one where you touch things, isn't it?
It is,
Correct.
Yeah,
Mm.
I've
The-
got
the
astral
Jimmy
projection and
Saveall of,
incorporate.
I've got no magic yet.
of the arts. Yeah. Okay, so
It could be many. It could be a nest of vampires.
it could
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
As I said, though, I'm going to press on to the next scene. So
Yeah.
it's tomorrow morning. Some of you are still doing your research to catch up to where you are, sort of thing. So some of you are, starting to look at what your next piece of research is going to be. Marc's character is heading out to try and see if they can have a word with some of the roadies and whatnot. And Marie's character has an interview with Paul Whiteout. So you've managed to get in touch with him. So Paul lives in a complex. You're going to recognise this.
Before we go,
Yeah.
what I'm going to do is, Colette doesn't look like Colette.
Right.
Her hair is not up in a ponytail; it's down, and she's got a fringe that's covering a lot of her face. She's not wearing a lot of makeup. She's wearing jeans and a suit jacket with the sleeves rolled up, and like a stripy top, and Doc Marten boots. She's still got a massive handbag. In the handbag, I've got a half bottle of whiskey and a half bottle of vodka, just in case.
Are you taking anybody with you?
I was going to suggest, I don't know if this might be helpful, if I did astral projection to be there, like, incorporeally.
My suggestion was more that you could come along with me, but not actually come in to do the interview with me. So the astral projection could work.
I think I've got to be somewhere relatively safe, though,
You do.
because I
Yeah.
can't just go,
Yeah.
like,
See,
completely...
Your body becomes empty. It just collapses.
Yeah.
Left to its own devices, it could be possessed.
'Cause-
You could be killed.
'cause we
so you
would
would
have-
usually have a guard with you, wouldn't you?
Yeah, because me and Colette would have obviously probably talked about this, so I'm going to be like, it's kind of like we're suggesting stuff.
Hello?
I'm going to suggest and ask her if she thinks it might be worth me astrally projecting while she's getting ready to go and see him where he look like, because she knows she got his address, hasn't she?
Yep.
Or is she meeting him? Yeah, so she's meeting him at his house, yeah.
Yeah.
So I could go and maybe see if there's anything I can pick up like that, and then I could physically go with you if you wanted me to after. I don't know. It's just a suggestion. I don't know if I could get anything.
Sorry,
I think
phased out
he's
about hour
expecting
two
a
there. Could
journalist.
Shut up!
Could you give me
Journalists
the?
don't.
Sorry, go
Journalists don't. Journalists don't travel in packs, right? You get one journalist. He'll be expecting one journalist, one wee Glasgow woman. I think taking anyone else is going to make them clam up.
Mm-hmm.
So
You're going to
I
want
think,
some sort of backup nearby, I would say.
yeah.
If things, if
Because I've got
things
my
go
half
south,
bottle of vodka and my half bottle of whiskey, but I've also got a bulb of garlic in that handbag.
Could she be a photographer? Take a Polaroid or something?
Yes,
I mean,
I'm a journalist.
Yeah, look in this silver backed mirror, please.
I mean, I could literally just wait outside, and if you, I'm
Yeah,
sure you would.
I just want somebody to sort of be nearby so that
Yeah.
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 But should I try astral projection first?
No.
Spy on him? Right.
I know.
I'll throw my thoughts in. It's your excursion, so. But for your safety, and what's worked in the past is if Alexis works as spy and messenger. If something goes wrong, you can very quickly get back to your own body, tell us what's happening, and then we can use mundane means to get a message to somebody who's on site, ready to burst in. If you go in there entirely by yourself with no backup, we're not going to know that something's happened to you until you don't come out.
Well, unless I'm... Because that's what we were saying, if I was outside, is he in like a normal house or a flat?
Let
Flat.
Bryan tell us the location then.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got a horrible thought.
Go on, then.
I think the guy's already dead.
That would be terrible, wouldn't it?
I think he's already dead, and that's why Jammer has come here. He's come after the person who fled.
So, in answer to your question, it's a block of flats. Some of you are going to recognise this description fairly immediately. So, Paul Whitehouse lives in a complex of flats in Washington, Tyne and Weir. To reach the flat, you must buzz at the entry gate and wait to be allowed in, either by Paul himself or by the complex concierge. The flats are, you've got like long, semi-exposed concrete pathways outside them all. You buzz in and you're allowed in. Paul answers the door dressed in crumpled clothing that's seen better days. His skin is sallow and his eyes are red. He looks unwell and much older than his 30 years.
I did have an idea of how people could be nearby. One of the guys pretends to be a door-to-door salesman or taking door-to-door surveys. That means you can also pump the neighbours for information.
Well, I was actually thinking myself, because of my expertise, I could go in as like pest control.
Has he ordered pest control?
He might not have, but the building might.
Yeah,
building
there are
might
about 100 flats in this complex. So. It's one of those that if you could get in saying you were pest control, everyone would just assume someone.
But there'll be
else
someone within the area. I'm
Yeah.
saying, yeah.
We've got a forger on the team. Can we rapidly get some documents, maybe even just like a work order drawn up?
Yep, give me a forgery roll for whoever's got the skill.
2 seconds.
Right, well, I'll just stay back at the travel lodge or whatever then.
Okay.
And
Okay,
I'm gonna. Yeah.
Rupert has managed to create a document that it's probably not going to survive close scrutinization, but it will, it'll fool somebody who's not paying a great deal of attention.
I was just going to say what I was going to say to Paul as he'd opened the door looking quite bad.
Yep, go ahead.
I'm just going to put my hand out to shake his hand and say, "Hello, I'm Colette. How are you today, Mr. Whitehouse?"
It kind of half-heartedly shakes your hand. His grip's moderately strong, but his heart's not in it.
Yeah.
And so he kind of half shakes your hand and then lets go as he's turning round, and he kind of shrugs and he went, same as always, really. Come on in. Inside, the flat resembles its occupant, having seen better days and looking somewhat unkempt. Paul clears some space from the chairs by moving a copy of Naked Lunch and several comic books and newspapers, as well as a guitar, before he flops into one of the chairs and puts his feet on a tree stump that's been polished and pressed into service as a coffee table. Right, so what is it you wanted to know? See if I can remember.
So what I'll do is I'll say to him, I'll comment on the fact he's reading the Naked Lunch, and I'll say to him, "Why don't you tell me about how you got into playing guitar? Was it something that interested you as a child or in your teens?"
It was. Yeah, I was always interested in playing an instrument, and I just found my father played guitar, and I always wanted to play, but when I was a little kid, I just couldn't get my fingers around the neck of the guitar. I couldn't really play properly because I couldn't get my fingers around the neck. So I learned piano instead initially.
I'll be making wee notes in my notebook.
Which is something I kind of gave up as time went on, and I picked up the guitar as a teenager when my fingers were a bit bigger and I was able to get my hand around the neck of it. Been playing guitar ever since, played in a few British bands, and he names a few other bands. And he says, and then I went out to America to see if I could get me part of that American dream that they're always talking about, And I was in a few bands over there. The Grudge, I started off with a grudge. Then there was a sort of heavy metal come punk sort of fusion band called Fudge Nugget I was with for a while. That was quite fun actually. I did enjoy being with Fudge Nugget. We never did well. We never did well, but the gigs were fun. They were like we had a lot of like regulars that would follow us around. That was cool.
Yeah.
And Thunder Fist, who were really not as good as the name makes us sound.
No.
to be entirely
I listened to some of the I got a bootleg of one of the albums. It's quite hard to find American music over here.
Yeah.
But I've got a contact and he got me a bootleg of one of the Fudge Nugget albums, and it did sound like you were really. Would have been a fun live gig.
Yeah, they were. I mean, we had this reputation for like the gigs devolving into violence, but it was that happened once, like literally once in our entire gigging thing, and that was when the gig got infiltrated by a bunch of neo-Nazis, and it all kicked off. That was down in. It was one of the southern states.
Louisiana?
The ones that had been. Yeah.
That sounds. Yeah. So, would you say your father was your inspiration, or do you think you were inspired by other guitarists? Or?
A bit of both. So, my father initially, definitely, but I was inspired by other guitarists as well. Yeah.
So, did your father play in bands, or was he just somebody who enjoyed it for himself?
No, he did play in like folk bands. So he did like Geordie folk bands.
Oh, there's a big grassroots scene of that.
I mean, I say Geordie. I mean, he would hate me calling him a Geordie because he actually lived over in North Durham, in a little town called Stanley. And he was what he would have called a pit yacker, and he had like quite a strong accent. But he used to play a lot of old like northeast folk, and he used to do like a rocked up version of the Lantern Worm, which you really, really had to hear. That was really, really something. That was really good.
You know, when you listen to some of your guitar playing on the work you did with the British bands, there's a definite folk feel about some of it.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe that the reason that you're not getting so much work now, because obviously you're an excellent guitarist, you should have more work than you're getting.
Very much.
Do you think that part of it might be that the folk's kind of fallen out of favour with the mainstream?
It definitely has, yeah.
Aye.
Yeah. It definitely has.
So have you never thought of maybe starting up your own band again? Because obviously you've got quite a portfolio under your belt. You would think people would want to see Paul Whitehouse.
I'll be honest, it's one of those, I've done it all once, and you know, the way life can sometimes kick you back down. Life's like a game of snakes and ladders. Yeah. And I got almost all the way to the top, and I hit the last snake and found myself all the way back down. And I've got to ask myself, do I really want to have to go through all that again? Because it's an awful lot of work, you know.
See, it's quite interesting that you use the word snake, because that would imply a snake in the grass, that maybe there was a barrier to you getting anywhere, and that you know who the barrier is.
I mean, in many ways, you're not wrong.
So, do you think maybe you might one day want to say writing memoirs? Because it strikes me there are some people who made a lot of money and got very famous out of what was your work. And
yeah.
No offence, Mr. Whitehouse, but I don't think you live like a rock star.
No, I'll be honest though. I'll tell you a secret that a lot of rock stars won't tell you. There is a world of difference between the image we project and what it's really like. I mean, the myth about it's all like sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I'll be honest, it's largely like wanking, tixie licks, and an early light.
Do you know you're not the first one that said it to me?
Aye.
Aye. Now,
For this scene, we can assume the coughs that I'm struggling with, trying to shift the last of this, is actually like it's playing the part of his cough as well.
do you know that's quite a nasty cough you've got there, Mr. Whitehouse? And do you know, my gran used to say, what you need for that is some of this, and I'm going to take the bottle of whiskey out of my bag and put it on the table.
Now, your gran was a very wise woman.
Aye, she was.
I'll just go and find some glasses. And he wanders off and he comes back with like two completely mismatched glasses. One's a wine flute and the other's a tumbler, which he's like busily trying to clean on his t-shirt. And you're not sure whether that's helping a great deal or making matters worse. But he does pour each of you a whiskey out of the whiskey that you've gone. I hope it's not too early for you. Because
I don't know if I mentioned to you, but I write for a Glasgow newspaper.
Oh, it won't be too early for you then. Great.
No.
Besides, my father always used to say, it's always over the yardarm somewhere.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
And he knocks back the whiskey and pours another shot.
I'm just going to sip mine and let him drink as much as he wants of that. And I said, I wasn't sure if you were a whiskey man. So I brought a wee soft drink with me and I'm going to put the vodka down as well.
He starts laughing, like uproariously. So, oh, God, the Van Helsing brothers used to be big vodka drinkers. And I always used to say it wasn't a proper drink.
It's not really, I mean, I find it's a bit like paint stripping myself, but to each their own.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a Russian drink, isn't it? What do you expect?
Aye.
Subtlety. No subtlety.
Nope. Aye.
Not like this, and he like pours some more. But it's not even that good a whiskey you've brought.
No. It's funny you because you did say you didn't want to talk about that band, and that was never going to be the focus of this interview. And if you want, I'll put my book away now, and I'll never write a word of what you say about them. But I can't help but think that man they've got playing guitar for them now is nowhere near as good as you.
Oh no! I'll say he is. I mean,
see, to my mind though, like if you're going to call yourself Van Helsing, right, you're going to take inspiration from vampires. There's no question about it.
We had a slight outage on OBS there for a moment, but we seem to be.
But the thing about that is that vampire legends come out of folk legends, and to me, folk music, like the folk music of Eastern Europe and even of Britain, is probably more related to vampires. I know that you think about vampires with all the whole New Orleans and the Coffin Girls and everything, but there is a very strong. I mean that comes out of all the European migrants that went over there. So it just strikes me that the more folkiness of your guitar just fitted better.
Well, I'll be honest, right? I mean, it doesn't always come across in the rock guitar style that he uses on stage, but Jackson is, for all a man's an arsehole. And can you just give me a perception check at that point, please, while he's saying this? For all a man's an arsehole, he is an amazing folk guitarist in that kind of New Orleansy folk blues type of a way. You missed it, okay. And he is a great guitarist. I mean, I would say he's almost as good as me.
Well,
I mean, maybe on a par.
No, I think that's very generous of you to.
No, honestly, I mean, he's great in Van Helsing for all I hate his guts. But when you hear him, honestly, on the banjo as well, you should hear him on the banjo.
Do you know? It's funny because I had a listen to the album Fist to the Head, which I thought,
Yeah, a fist in your face.
Fist in Your Face, that's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
one.
yeah.
And I was listening, I remember thinking, oh, it's quite a violent title. It's quite, I know that's, you're a rock band and that's the image, but Fist to the Head sounds a bit violent. And I had some trepidation going into it. And there is a track on that. And I did wonder who had played the banjo on it.
Oh, that was Jammer. Aye.
Oh, right, okay. Because, when you said when your hands were too small to get round the guitar neck,
Yeah.
I wondered if maybe you'd have learned the banjo, but you said you learned the piano.
Yeah.
Aye.
Well, funnily enough, we had a pianist with the band for a while as well.
Oh, right. Oh,
But he disappeared, and nobody ever found. As far as I know, nobody ever found out what happened to him.
Oh.
No, he was another one. He didn't like Jammer much either. And
Yeah.
I'll be honest, when we got Jam, I mean, a lot of people think that the reason I left the band was like jealousy of having another guitarist. But honestly, when the Van Helsing brother, can I stop? Do you mind awfully if I don't call them the Van Helsing brothers? Because it just seems a bit silly now.
You call them what you call them what you like because you knew them. I don't know them.
Their real surname is Adams.
No,
they just used Van Helsing because like the Dracula.
Oh, I mean they were calling you Paul Whiteout.
Whiteout, yeah.
Yeah, instead of Whitehousing.
Yeah,
I
that's
just
right.
thought it was that thing where bands.
They thought Whitehouse sounded a bit like Mary Whitehouse, and like obviously,
obviously
we didn't want that connection. You know what I mean?
No.
So so I used like Whiteout instead. Like a whitey, a drug.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Aye. So which I mean that caused a bit of controversy as well, which is good. But he also found the pianist. He also found Jackson a bit creepy. Now I'll be honest, when the Adams brothers were saying originally that they thought we could do with a second guitar to fill the sound out, I was all for it because like I'm good, but there's only you've only got so many fingers. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, aye.
And really, you want like a rhythm guitar, and you want a lead guitar, and you want a bass. And obviously, we had a bass, and I played lead, but it would have been nice to have the extra sound. So we got Jammer in for that, and he really, really did fill the thing out. I mean, that's when the band really took off, when we got him in, and we got a manager for the first time because like the Adams brothers had been their own manager. But after Jackson, we got Max as the Max Mogul was our manager. I think he's still the manager for the band, and actually it was Jammer that hooked him up with us. They seemed to know each other beforehand. I'm not really sure.
So the pianist that disappeared, what did he play on the Fists to Your Face album, or did he?
No.
Was gone by then?
He was
Right.
gone by then.
Do you think that was a difficult album for you? Because was that the last one you played on?
It was. It kind of was because Jackson was having this. He really wanted to do some backmasking, and I just thought that was a bit. Just a little bit sort of cliched. You know what I mean?
Aye.
It's like we're not like in some kind of horror movie where like did you ever see that one with there was a load of metal bands in it, and there was they did like some backmasking. I can't remember what it was called. It was a shit film anyway.
Oh, well, yeah, I can imagine.
But yeah, I just thought it was a bit cliche, but he was really desperate to do it. I mean, he did in the end, but I can't remember what it was, and it was something that didn't really make much sense at all. It was something about games, but I can't remember what it was.
Well, that seems a bit. So you were saying there wasn't much of the rock and roll lifestyle. There weren't girls in the dressing rooms and Colombian marching powder on the.
I mean, yes to one of those.
Sorry, Bryan, can you repeat the last sentence you had when you said games?
No, but only because I can't remember exactly what I said. But I'll. It was along the lines of it was something about games, and it didn't make any sense to him.
Who was playing the games or talking about the games?
The backmasking on the
backmasking.
album says play more role-playing
Oh, okay,
games.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that bit. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, I get you now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was just referencing that. Yeah.
Okay, so it's just this. I think you're well off out of it, to be honest, because some of my colleagues, this is off the record, obviously. Some of my colleagues in America are saying that whether it's I don't know what's going on, whether it's overdoses or whatever, but they're saying that girls are turning up dead at their concerts.
This started when I was still there, and at first we just thought, just coincidence. You know,
Aye.
it happens. It happens once. It's just one of those like dreadful things that
Aye.
happens. Happens twice. It's a bit suspicious. It's a coincidence. Then it happened a third and a fourth time. And I was like, no, I'm out of here. And honestly, there was something really fucking creepy about Jammer as well, because
Aye.
it didn't seem to bother him the way it bothered the rest of us, you know? I wouldn't say he was gleeful about it or anything. I mean, he did once say about, like, we could probably use it to, like, promote the gigs, which just seemed a bit sick to me. But,
Aye.
and to be fair, the Adams brothers, they cracked down on that. They like firmly no to that. But, it never seemed to bother him the way it bothered the rest of us, and it was just something really, really fucking unnerving about the guy. And honestly, the real reason I left the band is because he just made my fucking flesh crawl.
Right.
Was he? I can't ask the
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, that's.
Chris, what I'll allow you to do is pose the question to Marie so that she can decide if her character would think
Because-
it to ask.
Yeah, because we'll have had an interview strategy. You don't go into these things without a strategy for interviews.
So
It was if he was.
Like, queue up
yeah.
for that as well, then, please.
yeah. So we'll
Yeah.
start with Chris and then we'll do Patrick. Go ahead, Chris.
It was whether he was demanding or not.
Okay. Yeah.
Like that one. I'll work that in. Yep.
Okay. So keep that in mind, and we'll find out what Patrick wants to
Yep.
know.
Where did that tree stump come from?
Okay.
I'll ask him that as well, because that seems like a question where as if I'm not really that interested in Van Helsing, but I'm interested in him because currently it's beginning to drift into talking about somebody that's no him.
Yeah.
So I think that's quite a good one to pull that back. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Okay. So what do you want to ask him first?
So I'm going to say to him. So as far as that was, do you think the Adams brothers, or do we have to call him Jackson Jammer? Because somebody told me his name's Jack Jameson.
Aye, I did hear somebody mention Jameson once. Aye.
Aye. Well, anyway, if we could call him Jack or something, because it just feels like.
Let's just call him Jackson.
Aye, we'll just call him Jackson. Aye, that'll be fine. Do you think it was the Adams brothers were demanding? Do you think Jackson was demanding? Do you think Andrew,
Jackson was
do you think-
demanding, and he got worse as time went on.
Oh, right, okay.
He was very much. I mean, I'll be honest. He was the main talent in a band. He was better than all of us, and he knew it. And the more he knew it, the more demanding he got. Well, then freakishly long fingers of his were great for playing the guitar, but they were also sort of
Creepy.
yeah.
Aye,
yeah,
I used to know an old guy with the long fingers, and you just always felt like the child catcher of the chitty chitty bang
Aye.
bang, really creepy.
I tell you what, he always reminded me of. Do you ever see that old black and white film? Nosferatu. Do you ever see that?
Oh God! Aye, that's terrifying. That's
Do
really
you
scary.
remember the shadow on the top of the stairs with the long fingers and?
Oh,
Aye, there was something about him always reminded us of that. I mean, obviously he wasn't like pale with pointy ears and whatnot, because
aye, that would be a bit noticeable. I think
it
I
would
don't
be a bit
think-
noticeable. Aye, and obviously, I mean, you presumably Jackson's a black guy, so.
Oh, aye.
It would be a bit weird if he
know,
was pale with big
I
fangs.
did. Like I say, I went and had a look at.
I want you to know,
bought
like,
the
I'm not
albums
saying
that
he's.
you put-
I'm not saying he's racist. I'm not saying I find him creepy because I'm racist or anything. It's just like
No,
I find
I'm
him
not.
creepy. He just happens to be. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
Right.
I know what you mean. You
Because
can
some
be.
people think if you criticise him, that's why, and he did get a lot of that.
Oh, I bet.
Especially in America, mind.
Oh, America's terrible for it.
Aye.
I mean, we're not that much better, but you know.
Yeah, you do get
Oh,
a bit of it here, but you get a kind of different sort of it here, and it's like cringe making because it's like the treat people as a curiosity, and
Aye.
that's just as bad, I reckon, just in a different way. Do you know what I mean?
Aye. I think you're right. You know, I think, but so you're just basically you're retired now. You're just
Yeah.
yeah. You're not thinking of maybe. I don't know. That's a really nice tree stump. Did you, that you're using as a coffee table? Did you make that yourself? You know.
I did actually, because obviously I needed something to be doing when I got out of the music industry, and believe it or not, I'm now a qualified tree surgeon.
Oh.
And this is the
Yeah,
stump of one of the
fantastic.
trees we had to take out that was kind of undermining a building. So we kind of dug it out, and I thought, you know what, if I cut that right and polished it, that would look great.
I think that's very artistic. You know, it's strange though that you spent all your time playing a wood instrument and now you're out cutting down trees.
Well, I mean, I did wonder about making my own guitars, but I would need a workshop, and I would need a lot more practice at certain things.
You know, if you don't mind me saying, you seem like a man that life's wearied.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement.
Aye. So, aye. Now, is there anything that, I mean, I'm writing this as a retrospective about you. This is about you and about what you've done and about how the music industry's burnt you out, and you almost made it to the very top. And slid down the snake.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you would really want me to say in this? What would you like me to say about you?
I don't know, really.
Because currently, you seem a man that's haunted by things that you've seen, things that you've been through, and I don't want that to overshadow the interview. I want this to be about a talented man who's now doing other things. Do you think that haunted would be an accurate description of you?
In more ways than you would realise, yes.
Do you want to elaborate on that?
No, I really don't.
I can understand that. Sometimes reliving it helps, and sometimes it just makes it all worse.
Yeah. In fact, if I'm honest, I think I've probably had about enough.
I was thinking we'll call it a day.
Yeah,
But you know what? If you want to talk about any of it, if you want to feed things back, I'm going to leave you two numbers. One is you've already got the thingy desk.
Yeah.
The news desk. This is my number, and this is a number of a woman I trust to pass on messages and things. Don't be put off by the fact it's a private investigator's card. You know, she's my friend. This is just the best way to get hold of her.
No, they're real. I thought you just had them in films.
Oh, hi! I thought that enough. It was like, it was one of them things. I was out on a job. I was interviewing somebody, and she kept looking. So I went over and I was talking to her, and she says, "I'm a private investigator." I'm like, "What, like Philip Marlowe?"
Yeah.
But they are actually real. They look into. She apparently tells a lot of people for divorces, which is a bit,
Right, yeah.
But it's not as exciting as you would think, and then it's more exciting than you would think. But I'll give you these two cards,
Okay.
and I'm going to say something to you that's going to seem really weird. If you think you're in trouble, if you think somebody's coming for you, bonus.
Okay. He does give you kind of a slightly puzzled look at that. But he takes the cards and he goes to stick them in the breast pocket of his shirt, and then he realises he's not wearing a shirt, he's wearing a t-shirt.
Yeah.
So he just kind of puts them down.
What kind of wood was that tree?
He gives you an answer.
Aye.
Lignum vitae.
Just in case it was like Asher Rowan or something with a magical effect, you know what I mean?
Right, no.
Yeah.
I hadn't really
Yeah.
thought of that.
I'll say thank you very much to him for the interview and then leave
Okay.
and come out and give everybody all that information.
Right,
Which I think I wasn't going to get any more than that out of him. What
No.
I got out of him was more than I'd hoped for.
Yeah, I think it pretty much was.
Aye.
So, Paul knew about the backwards words.
But they didn't make any sense to him.
Yeah. Nosferatu, that was a good, quite the reference towards Jackson.
I mean, there are a few guitarists through history who had a genetic quirk that they had extra long fingers. You quite often see them playing 12 strings or double-necked guitars. You need to have freakishly long fingers to play those. But
Yeah.
it
The
is
long
freaky.
fingers as well, and then the commanding, that's just more towards that that vampire that was mentioned.
Yeah.
What was it called?
I do think, I mean, this is me,
Alpine.
I didn't get I failed my perception check. So I think this is a man who's scared.
Yeah, I always said he feels haunted.
Yeah.
After that, I think probably should have done some astral projection, but it's probably
Need to know the powers of the
There was no
Alpine
reason not
vampire.
to, really.
Yeah.
well, I was going to, but
Yeah.
I don't think Bryan wanted me to.
Powers of like a suggestion from vampires could haunt you for years, for life.
I mean, this is a man who's living, right? He's a talented guitarist. He's worked in the music industry. All of a sudden, something scared him out of it. He's no longer, or they've drained all the energy out of him so that he's low level.
Yeah, he's like
depressed.
he's aged.
He's aged prematurely. He's just going through the motions. Got him.
Probably figured out that one of the others was a vampire, and he's been threatened to keep quiet.
I don't think he did. I think he just thought the guy was really creepy and that he couldn't work with him.
He made suggestion of Nosferatu, but he wasn't implying it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I think subconsciously he knows there's something wrong. He suspects there's something in his subconscious mind relates him to vampires, but he's never
could have
made
been
the actual
hypnotised.
He
connection.
could have been compelled.
Yeah.
Also, we got an answer as to who Max was. It's the manager.
Yep, manager. Max Mogul.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't think there was anything more I could have gotten. I think I got answers to an awful lot of our questions because the way he talked about Andrew that left the band, he doesn't know anything about that disappearance.
So he said.
Yeah.
If he's working with wood, he could be making stakes.
He could be.
Trees
It
would
would
be a pretty good cover for
it'd
that.
certainly be a person we could run to and go, can we have some steaks, please? Also, I think if ever Jackson Jammer decides he wants the loose ends tied up, that man's dead.
I'm surprised he was alive this time.
Yeah. It's very telling the gigs went Newcastle first,
Yes.
Edinburgh, then London, because I work in the, Marc's done it, I've done it, Ryan's done it, we've worked in the music industry, and the bands don't jump around like that, they follow a route because it's easier. You don't want to double back yourself, because if you go from Newcastle to Edinburgh, you've then got to come back through Newcastle to go to London. Why would you do that? Newcastle first is definitely a decision that's been made, it's been a choice, and I suspect that a loose end might be getting tied up and it might be him.
Bingo.
Okay, so now I'm back. We're going to go over to Marc. You were hanging about outside the venue, I seem to recall.
Yes. Just generally chatting away to like people showing up that are fans of the band, and just making a point of trying to direct conversations towards like potential rumours about what happened in New Orleans, or about Jackson,
Okay.
Stuff like that. Just the fans seem to think that the stories are about it.
Okay. So a lot of the fans have heard the stories, and they do seem to think there's some truth in it. Some of them are actually quite like bizarrely excited by the whole idea and like want to be there when it happens, type of thing, which you just find a little bit on the creepy side. The roadies are a bit less talkative about it, but like you do see when they hear you talking about it, you do see them exchanging glances, like worried glances with one another. There's something there, but you're not quite putting your finger on what it is necessarily.
When I say a worried glance, I say, "Oh, sorry, we're not supposed to talk about New Orleans."
It's not that so much. It's just like, I don't know. I just find the fascination with it's just a bit unnerving. Do you know what I mean? It's happened. It's happened. It's a horrible thing, and I just think a lot of people don't get just how awful it is.
Yeah, I suppose. I think it's also just that. I think if you look through the timeline, it's also the direction of the band is quite a change, shall we say?
Yeah.
Seems to allow much more of those influences, like those, like I don't know, almost like it's like dark swamp, sort of a proper, I don't know, almost voodoo like.
Yeah, there is kind of. I mean, you get a lot of that in heavy metal, but yeah, there is kind of a little bit of that influence in some of the stage effects and the set dressing now. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the banjo and stuff as well that got used that time. And
Oh, I don't think I was there for that one. One of the other roadies like, yeah, I've seen like Jammer's quite a good banjo player. I remember he said to me once that his great grandfather taught him, and I thought that was a bit odd because like how many people ever meet their great grandfather? Do you know what I mean? But the other thing, this really struck in my mind as strange. Like he said, his great grandfather taught him, and he said he was as good as me, and it was like that was some kind of private joke. He found it like really funny, and I have no idea why. And it just, I don't know, the fella's a little bit creepy if I'm honest. But that whole like laughing at your own jokes, and I mean we've all got the occasional in joke with mates and stuff, you know.
oh yeah, absolutely.
But to have an in joke with yourself just seems a little bit.
Yeah, because it's the type of thing that you maybe like explain what made you laugh or something like that. You wouldn't just laugh away.
No, you wouldn't. That's what he did, and it just like it was almost like he was really pleased with himself about the joke. And I just, when people do that, you start to think like, are you the butt of the joke in some way, and you're just not getting how?
Yeah,
But
yeah, the type that just leaves you feeling a bit uneasy afterwards.
aye,
As
yes.
if you're not sure, like you say, as if was I just made fun of there?
Yes, aye. That's exactly. That's exactly it.
Interesting. I didn't realise that. That's because, like you say, not many people get to meet a great grandparent. Never mind have one around long enough to teach you how to play an instrument.
That's it. Yeah. Anyway, I'd best get this. This
Get yourself back. Oh, by the way, just in case, I'm not actually doing anything for the rest of the day. So if you need a hand with anything, I'll be about. So just give us a shout.
Right. Cheers. If we need an extra pair of hands, I'll give you a yell. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries.
And then off he goes. But you did get the feeling that was more sort of a like, yeah, I'll just say that, but we're not going to ask anybody who's like we don't know to get involved in moving all this heavy, expensive stuff. But you just never know. It also occurs to you that like there's a lot of different groups of people coming and going. including the stagehands and the road crew. And the road crew, there seems to be two separate groups of them as well. So there seems to be like a British road crew and an American road crew, and they don't seem to be mixing that much. And something that occurs to you is all these different groups. There's a lot of people here that don't know each other, and they're only coming and going because they're all wearing passes on lanyards around their neck. And you think to yourself, if I could get a hold of one of those, I could come and go from here as I please.
Forge one.
No, I might be able to, well, probably not very likely to be able to swipe one, but could potentially try and forge one.
You could probably, I mean, you've probably arrived here like fairly early on. They're not going to be that hard to forge. Again, it's going to be very much a case of if anyone looks too
Good
close.
forge work documentation that could give you access to a real one.
If you want one thieved, hello.
Yeah.
Jimmy's good at nicking stuff. I'm going to assume that when you were introduced to the other team members, you were probably told what their specialties were.
Yeah, I think we try and nick a pass or forge one.
Okay. Jimmy, you want to try and have a crack at nicking one?
Certainly.
I am going to have a try at forging one as well at the same time.
Okay. Oh,
Shit. That's still a pass, you said.
That is still a pass. That is a but as I've become a cartoon plumber, apparently.
I think I done
Is that
quite
right,
well
sir?
at forging.
Yeah, you have. So, Jimmy, you've not done a great job of stealing one, so there is a strong possibility this guy's going to notice. So I'm going to roll a D100 and see if it rolls under his perception of 50. And it does 6. So, like, you try to steal the pass, but it's quite clumsy, and the guy just sort of pushes you. You go, fuck off, man. And just like pushes you away and leaves it at that, which is the thing that surprises you. But as he's going away, you can hear him talking to one of the others, going, "Oh, these fucking fans, man! They'll nick anything." And like backstage passes are a big thing, so just keep an eye on yours, because you'll not be the last person to try and take one just to get in and meet the band, and then they're out of. So you feel like you were lucky. He spotted you, but he just didn't really get what.
The odd thing is, I had that ready as a cover story just in case.
Did you really?
The very thing you're saying, yeah.
Okay, so meanwhile, while you're doing that, Rupert is desperately trying. He's up at the library, going, "Right, it looked like this." On the computer in the library, like it looked like this, and then that, and that. And if I just print that out, and if I go along,
Do you have any idea how hard it is to Photoshop in a ZX Spectrum?
Well, the libraries have better computers than
BBC Micro, I would have thought.
Yeah, it would be. So what you've produced, you're having a looking at it, and you're like, I'm not that happy with it because it's obviously on the wrong kind of paper. But if I get
laminated,
if I get it laminated and stuff, that'll help. And by the time you finished, you're like, do you know what? That's actually not that bad. There's a chance somebody will spot it, but it's a bloody small chance. Because they would be you passed by 83, so they would be at minus 83 to notice it was a fake. So yeah, we're going to say you've managed to do a reasonably good job in the short time you've got of forging it. It has taken you longer than you'd hoped though, so you've lost a lot of the day. Roll as a D10. See how many hours it took to get this forgery right. 8. So there is a bit of an adjustment on that, so that's going to be 4. It's halved. So yeah, 4 hours it takes you. But you do now have one. So is there anything else you would like to try?
Well, I was considering because she's going to speak to the other guy, and it should be able to instantly be able to compare notes, as it were, given the pass to collect, to go in as, "Oh, I'm here to interview you after the gig or before the gig or whatever."
Yeah, so it's an access all areas pass that has been forged, and Rupert's actually managed to forge in just a matter of 4 hours, which it sounds a long time for modern technology. It would be a long time, but he's dealing with like BBC bees at the library. So 4 hours is pretty impressive given the technology he's got to work with. It's actually a really good pass, unless somebody looks pretty damn closely or has already got a good reason to think it's not genuine. They're unlikely to notice it in passing. So,
I would like to contact Save.
yeah, okay. What would you like to ask them about?
I'm going to give them as much information I can about the possible vampire and see if what they can give me from that.
I think somebody had already tried that.
I
You
did.
only had a little bit of information, or did say
so
possibly alpine vampire. I think
Did
that was
say
the...
you could try it again today, didn't I? So yeah, go ahead and give me a luck test to see what they know. So you're rolling a D100.
May I also try?
Yes, you can.
I don't have a look. So look.
Everybody
Okay.
has luck. Yeah, that's an attribute. So whichever of you has the better chance should be the one to make the roll. So who's got the highest luck?
I
I
hope
did
it's
that
me.
wrong.
I've got 58.
Mine's 62.
Okay.
And Chris, what was yours?
1 second. What, am I rolling it wrong?
You're just rolling 100.
Yeah.
Can I just roll?
70.
Right. Wasn't actually the question I asked, but
What was the question?
what is your luck score? Because I did say it should
Oh,
be the
40,
person.
42.
Right, you're
Definitely
actually the
meant that.
least lucky, so it would be
Oswald.
Ben that should make the roll.
Oh, fuck off.
Are you sure you don't want to take mine?
Well, it's going to be a
Fail
fail
either
either
way.
way, isn't it?
I've been gathering information. That's all. I didn't realise it would go for luck.
But you're asking for information somebody else might be able to get for you, yes? Have I
From
misunderstood what
information
you're
that I
asking?
can give them as well. Yeah.
Okay, give me a little bit more detail about exactly what it is, what the exchange of information is, and I'll see if I can...
So the information I've received from a particular person is they're commanding. They have long fingers, slender, possible New Orleans origin. They use their voice or music to manipulate. Then they have a familiar look of a character from Nosferatu and something about Max.
Okay, from that, yeah, I'm going to stick with the fact that nobody at Save has been able to find anything from that they think is going to be useful to you. Unfortunately, was worth a try, but what they've got is a lot of facts that they can't work out how they fit together.
Okay.
Okay, so has anybody got anything else they would like to do today before going to the gig itself?
Game shop.
Game shop. Yes, you did mention that.
Doll myself up like a rock chick.
Okay. You doll yourself up like a rock chick. You're going to the game shop. So you're going to Forbidden Planet. In 1986, Forbidden Planet was a tiny little ramshackle lean-to. There was a series of them outside the bus station. And they were what had originally been intended to be temporary structures, but have lasted like years beyond when they were supposed to. So it's about the size of a medium-sized terrace house ground floor, but it's cramped. The shelving is high. It seems to loom over you in ways that are oddly intrusive. To get past people, you have to turn sideways and squeeze past. The whole thing is quite claustrophobic. The place primarily deals with comics, but it does have, at this point in time, a fairly small selection of games.
Okay, I'll go up to the clerk.
Right, so it's a guy. He's tall. He's like wiry thin. He's got long, lank, sort of brown hair, and a sort of a large, slightly oddly large nose. and something about that and his staring eyes give you the
We're
impression.
not talking about Ben.
No, we're not. Give you an inhuman feel to the whole
Wow.
thing, or like some kind of giant bird.
Oh, okay. Sorry, it wasn't Ben. It was Dave. I got them. I got them wrong. So okay, I'll ask him. Do you? Well, I'm going to ask obviously first of all because I've not been here before. If he does tabletop games.
Yeah, we've got a few over here. We've got Dungeons and Dragons, which is like the big name. But we've got a few other ones as well. This one was the second game ever released, also by TSR. It's got a very similar system to Dungeons and Dragons. It's called Empire of the Petal Throne. It's got a really, really weird sort of Mesoamerican setting to it, which is quite cool. We've got this one. It's not been out that long. It's called RuneQuest. It's kind of set in a Bronze Age sort of neoclassical fantasy thing.
Do you have anything based around vampires?
No, I haven't. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine a game where somebody just had to, like, where the players had to play vampires? That would be kind of weird.
Yeah.
I don't think it would sell.
What do you think I should ask about? Like for that might be something
Ask about the
familiar.
band.
Have you ever heard of Van Helsing?
Yeah, of course. Character in Dracula. Also, we've got these comics over here, and it leads you away from the games over to the comics.
Okay.
We've got these comics over here where the character of Van Helsing's in them as well. Also, there's a band called Van Helsing. I know because he points at the door, and there's a poster on the door for the gig.
Right. Yeah. Who was that just given to you by like?
I don't know. I just came to work one day. It was on the door.
Okay.
I mean, it was on the inside, so it was obviously given to somebody to put up. I don't know who off the top of my head.
So what can you tell me about Van Helsing from the comics?
Okay, well, the Van Helsing in the comics is a very different animal to the one in the book. Because
Oh, okay.
the one in the book's not quite the action hero. I mean, there is a bit of action in the book, don't get us wrong, but it's largely the American character that's kind of the action hero. But in the comics, there's a lot more, and he just drones on for like.
Is there anyone
punching
called
and
Max in the books or the comics?
Max?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Don't think I'm getting anything here, guys.
Unfortunately not, no.
Well,
You do know that we found out who Max was, don't you?
oh, you did. Sorry, I
Careful.
had a bit of an emergency, so.
All right. Max Mogul is the manager of the band.
Okay. No problem. Thanks for telling us all about that.
Okay, well, if you ever want to buy any comics, we're the place.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll do. I can see this place doing really well.
Yeah, hopefully it will. Okay, so does anybody else want to do anything else today before the gig?
There is one single thing I want to do.
Okay.
Get loaded with weapons.
No,
Crosses,
that wasn't what I want to
stakes,
do.
holy water.
I'll
We
come
haven't
on to that,
prepared in
'cause
the slightest to encounter a vampire.
you haven't, and getting that lot past the bouncers at the Mayfair in the 1986 is going to be impossible.
I have a whip.
However, we do have somebody sneaking in backstage with a pass.
True.
He could go in with a case of some sort, and it could be stuffed full of weaponry.
It's
The one thing I want to do.
Plus
The one thing
bottles
I
of,
want to
bottles of water. I don't think it's going
Wait.
to be a problem.
I'm guessing people wore chains back then.
Oh, aye.
Well, you could hide anything in your back pocket with on the end of a chain.
Walking stick.
Not at the Mayfair. If they saw a chain going into your back pocket, they would ask you to show them what was on the other end of it.
Okay.
I mean, if you wore a studded belt, there was a 50-50 chance they'd ask you to take it off, and this was at a rock bar. And honestly,
We'll still do that today. I had to take my belt off when I went to the arena.
yeah. And one thing I can say is never. I mean, you're not going to be able to go back in time and try it, but never try and smuggle a set of spurs into the Mayfair because it's not going to work.
That's oddly specific, Brian.
Yeah.
The one thing I want to do before I go into this gig is phone my lawyer and make sure my will's in place. No, seriously.
Right.
I'm going to phone in a welfare check for Paul Whitehouse.
Okay. Okay, so
For the
you do
police.
that. You set up having somebody go and check on him on his welfare and whatnot, and you set all that in motion. The rest of you, what I'm going to say is, since you have decided you want to try and get some weapons in here, and since there is literally no chance of you getting them past the bouncers, but you are correct that you now have somebody, you do have a pass that somebody could use to just take anything in the back.
I look quite old and frail, and actually am quite old and frail. Can I have a walking stick?
Yes, but they are definitely going to check that it's not a sword cane.
Oh, it's not going to be a sword cane. The only alteration I want to make to it, if I can get away with it, you know, like the rubber stopper at the end. I want to kind of pack that with something, but I want to sharpen the end of the stick and then put it into the rubber stopper.
Yes, I'm going to allow that. So I'm going to say you've got a sharpened walking cane.
Thank you.
I would say anybody else, if you want to get weapons in there, they're going to have to go in that trunk that somebody using that pass is going to have to smuggle in the back way. And therefore, you will be separated from your weapons by them being in the backstage area and you not being.
Am I
I'm gonna use
correct?
my lasso as
Does
part
that
of my
include
outfit.
my walking cane?
There's a lot of people having a walking cane here.
It's caught on.
I would say, Mark, you're probably not going to get away with it because you've been seen all day walking around quite healthily.
Yeah, but not if I dress up for the gig.
We could have the presence of mind to break his leg.
I'm going to say no because we've already got one person doing a walking cane.
Oh,
sort of
no,
thing.
okay.
However, if you wanted to put some sharpened stakes in the crate that you're going to have loaded in the back, that would be fine. The problem then is going to be how do you get to your weapons if they're all stored backstage?
Can we get away with carrying in a bottle of water each?
The Mayfair in the 80s, no, because they'd want to sell you it.
Wow. Okay.
Carry it in
Better
your
get-
mouth.
Oh, this is the place that once charged. This is in the 1980s, mind. Tried to charge me £25 for a White Russian.
How much is that today's money?
About 70 quid.
Oh my god.
What about medicine? They couldn't stop you carrying in a bottle of medicine, surely.
I'm going to say you'll probably get away with that, yes.
Right. Fill that with holy water.
Okay.
I mean, would they not be like... I've been to a club before and they didn't let you bring a medicine in case you were bringing in, like, pills.
He's already allowed it. Stop.
As
side you're on?
long as it's a liquid. In the 80s, most drugs would have been a pill or hash.
Linctus.
So yeah,
Linctus, cough medicine.
if you've got like simple Linctus on it and
Yeah.
just take it in as holy water, the worst that's going to happen is they're going to open it and go, "That's funny, that doesn't smell of anything." And like Linctus,
It would
is usually
still
better
have a bit of a smell of Linctus because it's,
Yeah.
you know, it's a very strong smell and stuff.
It really is, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to allow that one.
Grand.
I'm going to say those of you who are trained with firearms are not going to get your firearms past them, but you could just put them in that crate. You're going to have someone load in the back.
Am I item, Brian?
Your item?
Lasso.
Oh no, that's an interesting point. I'm going to say there is a chance you can incorporate that into your outfit somehow and get away with it.
Tie it around like a harness, like a 5-point
I can't
harness.
take
yeah.
a deadly beast in with me. No, I'm kidding.
No, you can't. So I'm going to let you get away with a lasso, yes.
You know those of us... Not me, but you know the people who have guns?
Yes.
Could
So there's
we...
only two, and it's Marc's character and Jenny's character are trained with pistols.
Yeah.
If they sneak their pistols in, could we put a layer of silver on the end of the bullets?
You don't need to.
Are they already silver bullets?
Each of them, if you're using a save firearms pack, it will come with 6 silver bullets.
Okay.
It'll
Okay.
come with
Yeah.
12 standard rounds and 6 silver bullets. It will be on Alexis Strange's character sheet.
that have also been blessed.
Yeah, you can have them blessed.
And also, theoretically, if we had a crossbow, could you fire stakes?
Yes.
A crossbow bolt is made of
Essentially
wood
a stake,
and
yeah.
This is one
effectively,
guy.
yeah, works as a stake.
Have a crossbow though.
Hang on, did you
Just
say?
one guy, but it's a vampire. We don't know.
Yeah,
how
yeah,
strong he
exactly.
is.
It's not just one guy. It is a fucking vampire.
And we don't know how
It could
strong he
survive
is.
centuries.
A commanding vampire who could just get the crowd to attack us.
Right. So this place sells alcohol, yes?
Oh, yes, yeah.
And you've already said everybody smokes.
I wouldn't say everybody, but smoking would be very common at the time, yes.
Lots of people smoke. So lighters are fine.
Oh, lighters are fine, yeah.
Excellent. Flamethrower.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
You could actually, because having one of the women carrying hairspray,
Yeah.
Hairspray.
Yeah.
you would have got away with that back then.
Good.
Can we make
And
bombs with condoms?
can you make bombs with condoms? Not that
Con
I'm
bombs.
aware of.
Condom bomb.
Con bombs.
Can I? Would I be able to try and smuggle in my dagger that I have?
Absolutely not. In the crate, yes, but you're not going to be able to get away with carrying it in on you.
Could I
In your
not
shoe?
put it in my boot?
Nope.
Okay.
I've got coach's pockets in my coat. So I'm used to thieving things and secreting them about my person. Do I get any kind of a chance at smuggling stuff in?
It would be a small chance. The bouncers at the Mayfair were very hawk-eyed.
You want to borrow Brian's really long coat?
I would say I wouldn't think you'd... There's a chance you'd get away with it, but there's a much bigger chance you'd get caught.
Alright, well, I want to try and put my gun and the knife in the crate that we're supposed to be smuggling in. And I'll take a lighter and hairspray as well.
Okay.
I'll smuggle in a crossbow, I guess,
Let's try it.
in the crate.
Right, you are. So I have put the weapons crate up. It's editable by you, so pick one person to otherwise it's going to get confusing. Pick one person to fill it, and they can just type in whatever you tell them. Bearing in mind, if it all kicks off when you're in there, it will be backstage, you will be front stage, you will have to find a way to reach it. It won't be right there, you'll have to find a way.
80s Newcastle health food shops.
Actually, yes, there was.
Fantastic.
There was one up by Central Library.
I'm going to go and buy a packet of sunflower seeds.
Yeah, no problem.
What are they for?
Throw them on the ground, vampires to count them.
Right. Vampires are supposed to have to count them.
Okay.
Would we know if vampires do incorporeal attacks?
You wouldn't know.
As in, could you be attacked in astral?
Mm-hmm.
I would always assume the worst.
Is that something I could have researched through the day? Because I didn't have anything... I didn't get the chance to do anything.
Yeah, but it would take a Legends and Lore roll, and I don't think you've got it.
Right, okay.
I guess we need to cause a
I mean,
very
you could
bright
use
light.
a luck roll instead, if you wanted to. I really should have included luck as a rollable stat. I'll do that for next time.
Jenny, you said you were not doing anything for the rest of the day. The thing that you just tried to do but failed yourself, do you want to try tapping a contact in save?
I thought we'd already tried that.
What are we putting in the weapons crate? And I'll type it down real quick.
Stakes?
Well, I'm putting in my pistol and my sword cane.
Yep, I'm putting in my pistol, obviously bullets, silver bullets, and my dagger.
Oh, very quickly, pop to a shop, get a crucifix each. We can wear those going in, yeah?
Oh, definitely you could, yeah.
Yeah. So we wear those going in, pop to a church, see if we can get some communion wafers. Or a Christian supplies shop.
You can definitely get some communion wafers, that'll matter.
Bible each as well. There's nobody going to question the Bible.
They might do at a heavy metal concert. I mean, they wouldn't necessarily go, you can't take that in there, but they might go, what the fuck are you taking? Like,
I'm going to tear pages out of it and use it to light my fags.
okay,
Turn it upside down so the cross is the wrong way up and start headbanging.
yeah.
You could use lipstick and stuff to make circles. Oh, what about?
The vampires like salt.
We are sorted for a barrier to keep him out. I can do that.
Okay.
So I've got stakes, 2 pistols with silver bullets, sword, cane, crucifix, dagger, communal wafers, Bible. I've just stuck everything that
Garlic.
you guys were saying in there.
Garlic.
Garlic.
Do a quick save, Ben, so it just updates.
Seal the garlic in something, airtight container, bit of Tupperware.
Yeah.
Because if it, I mean, an actual bulb of garlic doesn't have a strong smell to it. It's only when you start peeling it. So.
Anyone want some pizza, some garlic pizza?
Oh,
From the
I'm going to
shop?
stick my crossbow in there. Crossbow. Anything else?
No,
Priest.
I carry my weapon with me all the time. It's harsh language.
Vicious mockery.
Okay,
Yep.
so that is now midnight. I hope you've enjoyed the game. Thank you.
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
coming. So thank you very much for coming. Those of you who are listening at home, thank you very much as well. We're going to, I'm going to hand you over to Jenny briefly, who's going to tell you a few things before you go. Jenny?
All right. If you're on Twitter or Facebook, then please follow us at Gethsemane Games for the latest updates, as well as check out YouTube to find episodes of the other games that we play. As well as this, check out Gethsemane Games Drive-Thru RPG, where you can buy system-neutral adventures and maps. And check out Bryan's Patreon account, where from just £3 a month, you can get some really cool goodies, such as maps for your games. I think you need to search BF Irving to find him on there. And lastly, if you want to support, but you only want to pay a little bit here and there, or give a tip, for example, consider checking out Bryan's coffee account as well.
Yep, for I am fueled almost entirely by coffee and M&Ms. Tell you Frank. Right. So thanks very much, Jenny. We will see you all again. Well, there's an interesting question. The initial plan was to play again same time next week. However, I am actually available tomorrow, so it's entirely up to the players.
I mean, yeah, I could actually join in tomorrow.
I could, but I'd be late.
I can't.
You can't, right? Okay, do you want to just leave it till next week then?
If
I don't mind.
that's best.
I mean, it depends. What does everybody want to do?
Yeah.
Chris, did you say you might not be available for next week as well?
No, I just can't do tomorrow night. That's all.
I don't know what Marc's working tomorrow.
I've got a night shift tomorrow.
Right.
So we'll be 2 people down, so I think we leave it till next week.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much to those of you at home for watching. Hope you've enjoyed the show. Next week we will begin as they walk into the Mayfair to the Van Helsing gig, and the real meat and potatoes of the adventure
Mean days.
begins. Yes, and you will discover exactly what it is you're up against.
It's going to be a werewolf. It's going to be the
Thanks.
opposite.
Thank you very much. Do stay safe. Take care. And remember, these creatures, these monsters that we talk about in these games, they're not real. They're just imaginary. They're just things conjured from humanity's fevered imaginings. Probably. Good night.
Good night.
Night.
Bye.